All right, everyone, welcome to the Tuesday, August 6th, 2024 meeting of the Albany Planning Board. I am Chair Chris Ellis, joined by my colleagues Rachel Brewster, Todd Kennedy, Vanessa Gilliard, and Martin Paul. We have an aggressive agenda today that we want to get through, a couple of ground rules. Of course, you all are here in person, but this is also being live streamed on YouTube, and all of the application documents, the full application packet is available for public review through the Albany Planning Department website. And if anybody has any problems navigating for that or needs to, we have the link. I can't read it, but it's paper, so just know that you get to that website and click your way through. They are there. We certainly will honor written requests as well as verbal, but for verbal, hopefully you registered within 24 hours of today's meeting. And when you are called upon, we ask that you state your name and your address. We hope that you're not repetitive. Go to Latin and say "I bid," or we can say "I agree with the previous speaker's comments," and add some texture and nuance and context that you may want to give on the topic. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes, and 6 minutes for those of the council as they represent a larger swath of the city and represent bigger chunks. So with that being said, we'll get started with today's hearing agenda, meeting, and public hearing. Okay. First on the list is for an application for conditional use permit for 341 Madison Avenue. Anthony Sagarino, say that for me. I want to say your name correctly.
Actually, I'm Robert Flansburgh representing him.
So Robert Flansburgh, that would be representing agent. Please, we're talking about residential townhouse district. The proposals is for conversion of an existing dwelling townhouse containing 2 dwelling units into a dwelling townhouse containing 3 dwelling units. You have the floor.
Oh, thank you very much. So I know you had mentioned documents that were provided on record. So I know there's photographs and plans and so on that are part of my This is my client's, there you have it. Kathleen, you're amazing. Thank you. So this, the brick building to the left is a subject property. And by way of introduction, we provided floor plans for the, as you walk those front steps, that's the first floor unit. There's a second floor unit that exists. And in the foreground, you'll see the window at the sidewalk elevation. There's 3 windows in that bay, and they are for the lower level unit, which we are proposing to create. So there's evidence to indicate that it was finished at one time. There was plumbing and so on. And so at some point prior to me being involved, there was nothing there. It was a blank slate. But there's egress underneath those front stairs. There's a door. You kind of walk down. I think there's a photograph of that in here. But there's a front full-size door egress into that unit. And then in the rear of the building, there's another full-height door. So there's egress in front, ingress, egress front and rear of the building. So yeah, thank you. So here's a floor plan of the unit that's proposed in the basement lower level unit. The grade is at 6 feet in front on the sidewalk and 8 foot plus or minus in the rear. And so you'll see top right of the diagram, that's the entrance underneath the stairs that go up to the first floor. And again, that's the entry into this lower level. And then it's a pretty wide open unit as proposed. It's a 1-bedroom unit as we go down the page to the rear. 1 bedroom, 2 bath, and you'll see the egress to the rear there as well. So there's a back staircase that goes up to the first and second floor unit that you'll see there to the bottom right of the diagram. And that won't apply to the lower level unit, of course. But and then there's a staircase in the front of the building that also goes up to the first and second unit. So that's the lower level. The next page is just the first floor unit as referenced. You'll see the front staircase off the front of the building to the left, and the rear staircase at the top left that was mentioned. But that's an existing layout for the first floor unit, and the second floor unit is pretty similar. Over the foyer, there's a study, I believe, on the second floor. Otherwise, they're pretty similar in terms of layout. But there you go. That's the sound as well. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Is that side easement yours?
His side easement alley, as far as I know, that's where that door that you see to the bottom right between the white building and our building, they own that. That's part of mine. Yeah, we provided a site plan as part of the documents that were delivered before, but that's and behind that door is where they have the trash cans for pickup.
What day of the week is that?
I'm not sure of that. I'm a Saratoga resident, so I didn't ask any questions. Yeah. But I do know they're now metal cans to keep the squirrels out. So they currently have bionic squirrels that like to eat the other things. Yeah.
So someone will maintain that entry when you close all the time?
Yeah, and it's been that way since like year plus, maybe year and a half that I've been involved. Yeah. They have a full-time project manager.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's, in the area, takes care of several other properties. I've met him there several times. That's how I've gotten access. It's pretty, it's provided interior photos as part of the packet. I'm sure you've all viewed, but it's in pretty good shape. They've maintained the building very well.
How many bedrooms on the bottom floor?
1 bedroom. Yeah, so 1 bedroom proposed to be 1 bedroom.
Why are there 2 bathrooms, like just 1 bedroom?
Well, there was they felt that they'd want a private master bath, if you will, if you could call it that. But and then if you're entertaining, there's another bath, kind of a counter bath It's put the water in that bath as well, so it's a little larger than what would be a powder bath for that reason.
Right.
Great question. And there's an existing, you will see to the bottom right, the mechanical room, there's the furnaces that provide heat now to the building, and that's gonna maintain, you're just gonna, wall that off and continue to use that, but sound insulated and so on.
Does it need to be fire rated?
Don't believe so.
Yeah.
Any additional board questions? Questions from staff? Comments from staff? Written comments, so no public. Okay. Staff?
The project is a type 2, classified as a type 2 seeker. So a determination of significance is not required. The Albany County Planning Board provided the recommendation and deferred to local consideration. As the applicant said, there was some evidence as early as 1968 that the property was a 3-unit dwelling. In 2012, the Board of Zoning Appeals had denied the legal non-conforming use of the 3-family because it was vacant, so it lapsed. They had then also applied for a use variance. I don't believe it was the same applicant. Use variance for a 3-unit dwelling, which was then denied. But since then, our code has been updated in 2017, which allows for the conditional use permit application to be submitted for the additional unit. The conversion requires each floor, the RT district requires the square footage of the lot to be minimum 1,150 square foot. The lot is 3,580 square feet. There are no exterior alterations being proposed. The basement or the garden level is 75% above finished grade. The requirement is 50%. The project, like the applicant said, includes trash storage, had addressed trash storage and circulation.
Council?
Nothing from me.
Right, relatively straightforward. Any further questions from the board? I believe there's a recommendation to approve the conditional use permit. Is there a motion? So moved. There's second.
Second.
It's been moved by.
Vanessa.
Second. Charlie?
That was Rachel.
Okay, and then here.
Keep up.
I'm sorry. Moved by Vanessa and seconded by Charlie to approve the
No,
condition.
it was moved by.
Rachel, sorry.
Moved by Vanessa,
Moved by
seconded by
Rachel.
Rachel.
Seconded by Rachel to approve the conditional use permit. All in favor, please say aye.
Alright.
That is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The last things.
Right, next on the agenda, another conditional use permit, development plan review for 184, 186, the rear of 188, 188, 190, 194, 196 Livingston, along with 97 to 99 3rd Street. It's the Underground Railroad History Project, Capital Region. And Sean Hamlin?
Correct.
All right, Hamlin Design Group, looking to do construction of a 2-story, 14,610 square foot structure to accommodate a cultural facility and 2 dwelling units. Our action under consideration today is for yours.
First of all, I would like to thank the planning board for your support and recommendation as it was brought to the common council relative to zoning. That went through quite smoothly and successfully, so thank you. So as you're aware, we are moving through the process. I believe I can go through the slides and walk through what we are proposing. A 2-story, 14,000 cultural center that we affectionately call the Interpretive Center. for Stephen and Harriet Myers historic home. And as you can see to the left is the frontage from Livingston Avenue. The first two slides. The second slide down, you can see the actual historic home. That's 194 Livingston Avenue. Third slide is looking from the path from 3rd Street looking north towards Livingston Avenue. And you will see the back of the structure, as well as that path will be eventually paved and lit. That will actually allow the entire interpretive center to be accessed both from 3rd as well as from Livingston Avenue. And then, as we commented earlier, the properties along Livingston Avenue have been zoned as a mixed use. And we're very pleased by that. That's why we're looking for a conditional use permit. And then the two properties to the south on 3rd Street remain as a residential. And this is our site plan. It looks real small from way back here, but you can see the location of the interpretive center, which is there. That's between 189 and I believe 190, those lots that are facing Livingston Avenue. And this shows basically how the building will be sited, as well as other features on the site. There will be, as we talked about, a connecting pathway that the Stephen and Harriet Myers, the Underground Railroad, has maintained. We will continue to maintain that neighborhood movement from the south to the north, as well as gardens on the northeast or northwest corner. There will be new gardens also fronting the site on Livingston Avenue as well. And then there is handicap parking to the right or to the east. And this is a view of the south. We have on 3rd Street, that will remain green space. And what you are seeing are the geothermal wells that are being placed. There's approximately 10 of those, or exactly 10, that will be placed for the facility. This is a floor plan of the facility. This is the basement floor plan, which will hold the archives, the historical archives, as well as a library and media center and mechanical space. Next slide. This is the main event space where the displays will be shown. Primary entry will be off of Livingston Avenue, which is on the top of the page. There will be lockers, seating areas to come in. Coats can be hanged or checked in. The main exhibit floor also has an area for a cafe for those to grab an espresso. There's also a children's space that's to the lower left-hand side to engage the youth relative to the history that we have here in Albany, New York, relative to the abolitionist movement. And there are just support spaces to the right or the east side of the floor plan and to the south. That is the kitchen, as well as the custodial office and support spaces, as well as the receiving room. If you go to the next floor, we have once one comes off the elevator, which is located on the northeast corner of the building, there is the conference area, as well as the suite of offices for the employees who will be working in the interpretive center. And all of these views have all of these offices and spaces has views down onto the event and exhibit space. And then further to the south, we have two apartments, one being for visiting speakers and another for management of the facility. Thanks. So here's a little bit about how it is proposed to be used. Hours of operation are from Sunday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Total of 7 employees. And you can see the closest conditional use is similar to Philip Schuyler Mansion, which is located in the same area and neighborhood. And we are seeking permits from the city of Albany, as we know, for as far as building, planning approval, of course. And we also have Department of Health, as we will have a commercial kitchen that will be operating for the public. And this is the existing conditions of how the site currently is laid out, the parcels, and how it's currently being used. And this is the proposed again. I think we talked a little bit through this. I don't know if we have to spend a lot of time. This is the landscape plan. There has been and continues to be extensive amount of design and planning work, as this will receive a green certification of Living Building Challenge core standard. So issues of biodiversity, native plantings are all taken into consideration, as well as the historical nature of some of these plantings in the garden to reflect the type of plants that many of those seeking freedom may have seen as they traverse from the south to the north. And then here are elevations of the building. The building, the main gable image in the front, is based upon a 1740 timber structure that is being transplanted from a farm in Fulton County to our area, and it will be reconstructed, and it will be one of the primary artifacts of the exhibit, artifact in place. We are very proud of that. This is the west elevation of the building. This is the elevation that looks out onto the garden space and walkway space that traverses the property. And this is the east elevation. And the receiving area, this is the elevation that's along the driveway. And this is the floor plans again. First, second, third. And this is some additional information on construction. 14 months, that's what we're projecting at this point. There has been conversations with the various neighborhood associations within Arbor Hill as well as the surrounding West Hill. There's also been funding sources. There's been a lot of interest in this, as this has national as well as local significance. NYSERDA, National Endowment, are all funding sources. And then we have additional data that was requested regarding 2 dwelling units that are in the facility.
Any questions from the board?
I have two. The first question is, how is this in relation, how is this building going to be built in relation to the actual house? I'm assuming the house is staying, correct?
The house, which house?
The
Stephen? Oh, yes.
the Myers house.
That historical house will definitely be staying, yes.
Okay, so how, I'm just trying to envision how this construction will work with the house.
So the house, the center, the interpretive center is located to the east,
Okay,
far enough that it will not disturb the historical house. And so there are provisions, and in fact, we're reviewing those with our contractor now, of the actual means and method for construction, but it will not at all affect the house. House is a treasure, and it will be restored as well. There will be additional investments that the owner is making to the house to bring it up to the level that Stephen and Harry would have enjoyed during their stay.
and so that sort of leads me to my next question of making sure that, what provisions are you putting in place to, because you're doing heavy construction.
Yeah.
And so heavy construction comes with unsettling of the of the earth.
of the earth.
And so what you know, are you guys making any provisions to ensure the structural integrity of that house as you guys construct this building?
That house and even the other neighboring homes,
That's my
we're,
question too.
our actual construction of our center is closer to 182. The property of 182 further to the east.
Right,
And so we have in our documents of shoring provisions, that is actual physical shoring that will go into to protect the house and the property on 182. We're far enough from 194 that we're not concerned. We're able to lay back the earth properly, and we won't have that similar type of problem that we will have to the east. But that is built into the contract, to protect our neighbors.
and what about the ones behind you on Third Street?
That would be the church.
Yeah.
The church, that's far
I
enough.
was about to say that's further up.
That's on the other side. of-
But no, there's two churches. There's one towards the corner towards Swan, and then there's Metropolitan, which is a larger church. But there is a smaller church that's directly behind you. So he's right.
There's a small church directly behind on Third Street.
Yep, towards the corner, a little bit from the corner.
House is 95 Third Street, but it's far enough either.
Yes, that's not directly behind us. That's what's just confusing. Is it closer to
It's closer to
the
Swan.
gardens?
It's closer to Swan.
Yes, that's far enough away.
That's right.
That's far enough
And then
away.
Metropolitan is.
Yes, across on the other side of the
Closer
street.
to Boulevard, okay. My last question is regarding your comps, because I know you mentioned that the closest comp was Phillips Schuyler. Did you guys take into Tenbrook Mansion? Because it's very similarly situated to what you're doing, and you're literally down the street from where you're building.
No, I don't believe there's been a meeting with that community group. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
No, we have not met with Tim Brook.
But you also mentioned that the closest similarly situated facility
So
is Phillips Schuyler, which is in South End, but Tenbrook is down the street.
actually close.
Yeah,
Okay, then I may have juxtaposed the two. I
okay,
think I was thinking of Tim Brook and we put this on the slide presentation.
okay,
My apologies.
no worries. It's my neighborhood, so I'm kind of sensitive. But yeah, those are my only
My
questions.
apologies.
Any engagement with Metropolitan?
Yes, we have. The Underground Railroad has contacted Metropolitan. We talk about perhaps parking and utilizing the parking lot. We thought that it would be a wonderful complement to them because our facilities open when they're closed for the most part, and vice versa. But at this point in time, there was not any interest from Metropolitan to engage in a type of partnership to work out the parking situation.
Do you see that as a need?
We believe, initially, we thought it was a need. At this point, less so. And then let me explain why, and my civil engineer will go into detail. When we first started this conversation with the planning and with your staff, the issue was that we really knew that we had a deficit in parking. And then we began to look at what type of credits could we have due to street parking. And so our civil engineer did a study along Third and Livingston. And for those of us that are familiar with the neighborhood, Third Street between Swan and Lake, there's not a lot of development. And so there appears to be quite a few open parking right on the street. We counted upwards close to 7, over 60 spots along that area. In our conversation with your staff, there is the official credits that can be provided where our property is fronting. But with Metropolitan and Metropolitan dominating the majority of that block, there will never be any new development along the south side of that street, and that parking remains open. At the end of the day, when we look at the numbers with the credits, we believe that we're at a delta of just 4 spaces. That's really where we are, 4 spaces. So a thought of ours initially was to come to the planning board and basically say, can we have a waiver for that delta of 4 spaces? And if that was acceptable, then the issue is resolved.
That's not for consideration tonight.
No.
Any questions for staff?
If there's no more for the planning board, it's yeah.
I just have a couple questions. So I think the project is really interesting. I'm just curious about have you worked out with your team, sort of strategize the sort of staging, and construction, debris and dumpsters.
Yeah.
Part of this, because it's pretty tight in terms of just contractors coming in and out, like for the residents and like that.
So I'll allow the man to my left to talk a little bit about the staging, because his drawings detail exactly what's going on construction, and I'll talk a little bit about the green effort as well, relative to handling of rubbish and construction equipment.
Good evening. For the record, I am Kurt Bedore, civil engineer on the project, KB Engineering. So we have addressed all of your concerns. I do believe we have advanced the plans. It's been a time delay between what we've submitted and how it has advanced. But we do have a sheet on there that has erosion sediment control. We got a staging plan that handles where we would put materials, storage, deliveries, a fenced off, construction fenced off work yard, and for security purposes as well as for screening from the public. There will be some temporary, visual protection, but there's a visual. We have rare record a visual impact construction, but I think that we just need tastefully try not to adversely impact the residential neighborhood aspects.
And that 14-month construction duration, when do you expect to break ground?
Our hope is in October.
Okay.
Ending city.
For October, and then you'll have the spring and the summer.
Yes.
And when do you in that timeline, the borings for the well, geothermal, wells, and
Well, we have done one. We've done the test one. We had a permit and we were allowed to do one. That was for us to pull the data so as to fine tune our specifications on the heat pumps. So one has been dropped approximately 400 feet down. You can go by and see it has a little yellow fence around it or orange fence around it. That work isn't specifically designated when it's done, probably done early in the cycle. To create the bores, the remaining 9 bores that should be done. Then the ground will be opened up as well as the excavation site, because there are basic water lines that run from the wells to the building, and that circulation is just continues. But my understanding that will happen.
And that'll happen like in the October, where the ground freezes.
Yes, that's what we would like. That's what we would like to believe. And actually, once they're set up, they can work well into the winter, just doing the drill. It's not the issue. Yeah, so that can be done.
That's great. I think a big part of this is actually, it's gonna be a great final product for the residents. It's just gonna be there to maintain the alliances through construction, right? It's a big job.
And the other thing I would like to add relative to the construction and handling of debris, we are really trying to bring a high level of sophistication, not only by the finished product, but how we work the finished product. So a part of our documents, we've specified what happens for instance, construction runoff, it's an erosion plan, even protecting water that is pumped back into the city's sanitary and sewer system. And then also tracking of and reducing the amount of construction debris that's from the site. That will all be documented. Our contractors know that up front of what needs to go into what recycle, the amount of recycle versus the amount that can go to a city landfill.
Sure.
So that's stipulated in our documents in order to meet our green certifications.
Any additional? Right, staff?
Yes. So as was mentioned, obviously the properties along Legacy Ave were rezoned to MUNE, which means that a conditional use permit is required when a cultural facility use exceeds 3,000 square foot of first floor area, which is the case here, which is why there's a official public hearing. Check that off the list. The MUNE front yard max setback is 10 feet. Except where the septic lot is adjacent to developed lots facing the same street and having a principal building located within 25 feet of the lot line. So basically, if you're next to a building where their setback is greater than 10 feet, you can kind of match that. So as proposed, it doesn't meet 10 feet or the adjacent 16 feet. So I think we'll need to wiggle with that a little bit. There are some adjustments for possible area variance from the BZA, which I think would fit within the timeline if needed. As Sean had mentioned, the square footage of the two proposed dwelling units don't quite meet the MUNE dimensional standards of 1 per 750 square feet gross floor area. So again, we'll need to address that as they are undersized. The existing underutilized curb cuts will need to be filled to city standards, as I think there might be a couple extra as proposed. As we discussed, the project is eligible for 3 parking requirement reductions, so only 9 spaces are required, where 4 off-street parking spaces are proposed, although I think he said there's a deficit of 4, so maybe 5 are proposed, or the math is somewhere.
Math was just a little.
Okay. So,
Fine.
2 electric vehicles at the original Myers residence, and then 2 ADA, the new construction. Although the parking is currently proposed in front of the building wall plane, so again, we'll need to address that either with a waiver request from the planning board or revised location, which is probably unlikely. If the location does remain, I think screening would need to be added per the USDO requirements. Additional landscape buffer may also be needed along the side lot line as it abuts the residential occupied building. And I think ground mounted proposed mechanical equipment is also there, which would require additional buffer. Because of the rezoning, we've had some kind of wiggle room on the back end, so we've gone through like 1.5 rounds of departmental reviews, so we have been doing some work on the site plans. So DGS and forestry have no additional comments at this time. And we've been working with Department of water supply, and Division of Engineering comments, which are currently outstanding, but I think we've progressed them quite a bit. I did just want to add that for the expected start date of construction, SHPO has required a phase 1B. Phase 1B report is required, which obviously factors into the seeker. That is recommended action for tonight. So we'll be needing a copy of that report prior to a determination under seeker. So that could affect the timeline.
Yes, we realize that. And parking has a relationship with the Underground Railroad, and they are pulling together full, you can say, audit of the work that has been done on the historic site. They will be they plan to have a meeting with SHPO to review all further details of the 1B that they requested. It is our understanding, or our belief, that the 1B that they did request was quite extensive, and that there has already been recorded archaeological work on the site that Harkin has oversaw or has executed themselves.
From 2014, I think.
Correct. And so we've asked for a meeting with SHPO to kind of work through some of those details.
Yes, so just to keep in mind as, you know, we are kind of waiting to, if we do end up waiting to close seeker, you know, as that things are looking good, then that's something we'll be looking out for. Otherwise, I believe that's all for staff notes.
Would it be within the purview of the board to make a secret determination? Or do we have to wait for the ship?
I would say generally the precedent would be that we would wait for
That's
a letter. Obviously, we would have to, you know, we could maybe have a communication with them, but we'd have to see. There was a draft report and we haven't quite heard, but they reviewed it or, you know, have to say it's circumstantial. Okay. So recommending action to declare planning board to act as lead agency. Unlisted action or doing coordinated review, just given the amount of funding sources for this project. NYSERDA and National Endowment for Humanities. Much a lot of people want to be involved. According to review.
Council,
Nothing for you on this one.
any more questions from the board? See,
Yeah, just one question, just for my information. What is the program for the lot next to the building? What are you gonna be doing there? The one that's just a little bit, what would that be, east on Livingston?
East on Livingston,
Yeah,
lot,
did I miss something there?
or were you thinking west?
Because the building's on the west corner, right? Yeah.
Well, the building's more to the east. The building consumes 184, 186, 188, and 190.
Okay,
So that's what the building, our new building will consume.
okay,
So 192 is.
192 is a building that's currently exists between our interpretive center and the historical Harry Myers.
right, okay, yeah,
Um,
and so I was just gonna,
that there are discussions that are being had.
okay, thank you.
yes.
Sure.
Yes, get it all out. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to declare the planning board as a lead agency? Secret. Seconded. It's been moved by Rachel and seconded by Martin to declare planning board to act as the lead agency for secret. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Our next project for tonight is also on our moving to a meeting agenda now. Conditional use permit for One United Way. The applicant is Mesa Inc. This is for mixed use campus institution. The proposal is to occupy 13,170 square feet. Single story structure located at the site for the use of a controlled substance dispensary. Yeah, hence our seated. So trying to present, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the planning board and all those gathered here today. My name is Mickey Jimenez and I'm the regional executive director with Camino Nuevo and Acacia Network. I have had the privilege of being involved with Camino Nuevo since the earliest days. My preparation for today's public hearing has caused me to do some deep reflecting on my history with Camino Nuevo, which is over 10 years. In the context of this matter before the board today, I feel that it is important to take a step back and view Camino Nuevo through a wider lens. The vocal opposition to the clinic in the recent years has crowded out and even eclipsed the enormous impact our work has made in the Capital District. Opponents of our presence on Central Avenue are, of course, quick to try and separate themselves from the opposition that follows addiction services. They always end up saying that, quote, they're not opposed to the ultimate goals of treatment and recovery, unquote. The unspoken truth, however, is that they represent a society that continues to struggle with the ravages of drug and alcohol abuse. We all know someone, don't we? Let's be real for a moment. There is a societal bias against persons with addiction disease that all of us fall victim to. We think that the person with the disease is making a conscious choice to be ill. That is just needs to be, that they just need to exercise some discipline that will solve their problem. Let me offer a difficult fact to digest. The United States, the wealthiest nation on earth, just marked the anniversary of the longest war, which puts the lie to this type of thinking. The war on drugs just turned 53 years old this year. And we all have learned nothing else after half a century of $1 trillion. It's just going after the drug cartels and dealers on the streets makes this great headlines, but simply treats the symptoms. The only thing that has been proven to work is treatment and recovery. But getting back to the matter at hand, while we concede that our relocation will serve the greater good, it bears noting that Camino Nuevo has undergone a total security makeover by hiring retired members of the Albany law enforcement community to head up our efforts. We are providing a safer environment to our clients, staff, and neighbors. After almost a 2-year of a stepping up security measures, like the daily perimeter checks and outreach to local businesses owners to take the temperature of our neighborhood, the area has enjoyed a renewed sense of safety and security. Even the Medicare problem has been reduced significantly. Having said all that, we are extremely confident that the relocation of Camino Nuevo to One United Way will allow us to deliver services in a much more controlled environment, because the clinic will no longer be part of the streetscape. The new location represents a far more defensible space. Our security team will not have to deal with the flow of urban traffic, both human and automobiles, which makes the current clinic location vulnerable to bad actors. As a proactive measure to address future concerns, we will be holding monthly community advisory board meetings with our neighbors. These meetings will ensure that any community concerns are addressed. Tonight, you will hear testimonies from our strongest allies who will verify how these services can be provided, just like any other health services in the Capital District. So it is now my pleasure to introduce Rob Kent from Kent Strategic Advisors, and Stephanie Campbell, who's also the Vice President. Rob is the President of Kent Strategic Advisors, who will deliver some remarks.
Thank you all. So by way of background, from 2007 to 2020, I was the general counsel of the New York State Office of Addiction Services and Supports, and was actually there when this program was certified initially and licensed to operate what's called an opioid treatment program. They provide methadone to individuals with opioid use disorder. It's very similar to a medical practice. People show up, they receive their medicine, they leave, they can get counseling services if needed. But Oasis, or what I mentioned, subsequent to Oasis, I was the general counsel of the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy from 2021 to 23. This program is overseen, licensed, and regulated by the Drug Enforcement Administration in Washington, SAMHSA, which is part of Health and Human Services, and Oasis. There's constant supervision regulation. Methadone itself has been used for more than half a century to treat opioid use disorder. It's considered the gold standard for treatment. There have been issues with the current location. You were aware of them when I was at Oasis. There's always been an effort to try to find a more suitable place. I believe this place is suitable. I know that the Acacia Promesa
Camino Nuevo folks. They take their obligation to their neighbors very seriously. They police the community that they serve and not just the facility they operate in. And they do that all over the state of New York. This is a longstanding provider, a very proud provider. So I'm happy to end there and answer any questions if necessary.
Right? Any questions from the board?
So.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephanie Campbell. And as Rob mentioned and Mickey mentioned, I am the vice president at Kent Strategic Advisors. I wanted to just open with a real quick story of a young woman at 15 years of age who left home and became quickly addicted to a number of substances, but found heroin, and then began the descent into abandoned buildings and bus stations and train stations and all the things that go along with living on the streets. That young woman cycled in and out of hospitals, emergency rooms, and eventually was told about an OTP on the Lower East Side, and began and at that place began the life-saving medication that opened up the doors of recovery for her. That young woman went on to get a full-faith scholarship to Bard College. She did her first graduate degree at Columbia University in philosophy. She went into government and she worked there for a while, and then she got a second degree and a graduate degree and went into education, taught school for a while, high school. And then she went to New York University to get a third graduate degree. Ended up becoming an adjunct professor there, and none of this would have been possible had that young woman not began her recovery with that life-saving medication. And I am so very grateful that that opportunity was given to me. I have a life second to none. I have two beautiful children. I work helping people get access to care. And I know how desperate people are to get help. And when I first started the work that I do now, there were 29,000 people dying a year from overdose deaths. And that number is over 100,000 now. And it keeps going up here in New York State because folks don't have access to what they desperately need to have a life. And I'm no exception. There are 23 million people like me living life in recovery because they have access to help. And we live all over the place. But if we don't get the care that we need, and this is a medical issue, you know, if I had diabetes, I would need to get access to my insulin. And thank goodness I don't have diabetes, because I do have an addiction to jelly donuts. So I'm lucky in that way. But you know, but we need to see the hope and healing that happens when people are able to get the care that they need. So I really appreciate the board's willingness to see this for what it is, to normalize it, and hopefully help people and save lives. Thank you.
Any questions from the board at this point?
No.
All right. There are folks signed up for public comment. I want to acknowledge the written comments from the elected officials, Assembly members McDonald, Fahey, Nathan Ryder, Dr. Wang, and Kathleen Sportsbeck. And now we'll get to our public comment. We want to remind folks, can you state your name, your address, and you have a 3-minute window to present your comments. First up, Kevin.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Kevin Joe Davis. I'm the Executive Director of the Healthy Capital District. We reside at 175 Central Avenue, on the fifth floor of Camino Nuevo, and I live in Warsaw, New York. We've been providing health insurance enrollment, school-based preventive dental care, regional health planning services throughout the region for the last 25 years. And throughout that time, our offices have been primarily in the city of Albany. In 2014, we moved to 175 Central Avenue above Camino Nuevo, but before that, we were on 315 Sheridan. Adding my work at the city's Department of Youth and Recreation Services, I've worked in West Hill for about 30 years. During the pandemic, there was the worst unrest in West Hill of the whole time I have worked there. The public finger pointing for the cause of that has been unfairly concentrated on Camino Nuevo. Camino Nuevo did not create COVID, nor cause the death of George Floyd, nor promulgate the political extremism that instigated a surge of exasperation with injustice that exists. They also moved into the neighborhood well after the corner of Lexington and Central became well known as a gang gathering place, as well as after Robin and Central became a consistent place that we found drug dealing and prostitution. In fact, our building manager said that when they first bought the building, the construction workers were solicited by sex workers on that block. While Camino Nuevo didn't cause these problems, they have stepped up to address big, important problems in the neighborhood in our region. For the region, they've been one of the few resources to help people trying to kick their addiction to opiates, the national public health emergency that, according to a recent Siena College Research Institute survey, has directly impacted over 2/3 of the over 2,000 respondents, family, friends, or coworkers. According to the same poll, heroin use and synthetic opioids are the most serious public health issue we currently face. Not only is Camino Nuevo doing the work that we all need them to do to help our family, friends, and coworkers free themselves from this devastating addiction, but they formed with us a neighborhood support coalition and street outreach program to engage neighbors in supportive services, as well as a safe passages program to support young families walking their kids to the local elementary school while we picked up trash before and after school each day. What I'm saying is that the problems in our neighborhood were over-attributed to them and their contributions were undervalued. And I would also say that they heard people's concerns about security and have responded in impactful ways, and they have spoken to that. These changes, though, have resulted in the building, parking lot, and surrounding section of our block looking and feeling more secure than any other time in the decade that we've been here. In fact, I'm more concerned about what will happen when they leave when they are here. My point is that the organization, the community desperately needs, and they've stepped up and responded to their critics by making substantial investments to move to a more controlled campus.
Kevin, time is up, and I would ask you seem to have your comments written, if you could share those with us.
Yes, thanks.
Circulate them, that's review them in their entirety.
I appreciate that.
Not a problem. Thank you for your comments. Kelly?
Kelly wasn't feeling well this year. I'm speaking on her behalf.
You are?
Dan Whalen. Dan Whalen, I am a person in long-term recovery. I'm also the Recovery Center Director for Second Chance Opportunity, which is located at 55 Golden Ave here in Albany. I've had the pleasure to work with many individuals that have come out or are currently in Camino Nuevo. What I hear and what I see often in the news and written comments is not what I see from these individuals that come into the Recovery Community Center. What I see is people that are trying to get back their lives, people that are, looking for opportunities to have a better life, people that are looking for employment, looking to build relationships back with their families. Not what I'm hearing from others that that these people are using drugs on the street and stuff like that. These are people that are trying to stop their substance abuse and they're trying to fight this disease. And so as the recovery center director, many of the individuals that go to Camino Nuevo also come to activities. They also engage with the recovery center, second chance opportunities. And they're good people just trying to have a better life. And I think the move, and I'm in support of the move, gives them an opportunity. I think that the move is a safer environment for them. The move will help them have a better opportunity to be able to come out of the One United Way and just get back in their vehicle and go home, or get back in their Medicab and go back to their house and not have the what they walk out sometimes to on Central Ave. So with that, I hope the board will approve this and let them make their move. Thank you.
Nathan. Been twice.
You did provide written plus comment.
Thanks, Terry. Terry?
Like they're gonna give us 6 minutes or.
You have to formally request. You have to formally request.
Oh, man, formally required. David Benucci is one of my colleagues, and he had signed up and asked if he could yield his time to me. I'm speaking on behalf of our entire firm and several other tenants that are in our location. So it's a larger group that like to just give my whole comments on. Okay. My name is Terry Kramer. I currently serve and have served for the past 6 years as the Director of Human Resources for Kielbecker and Sherman. When I initially heard about this proposal for the relocation of the Nuevo Clinic, moving to the property next door to my current employer, I went into the informational meeting with an open mind. I personally know people struggling with opioid addiction. I've had people, close friends, succumb to this epidemic. This issue has hit close to home for me more than most. I understand the only way out of addiction is treatment, and identifying a location of these services is extremely difficult. These aren't bad people trying to be good. These are sick people trying to be well. On the flip side, I work for a business that's comprised of many people very similar to myself, hardworking professionals dedicated to the community they grew up in, working with business owners to further their dreams and in turn the multitude of local people they employ. I was concerned that this proposal could have a dramatically negative effect on our business and erase a lot of the hard work that I had personally invested in the firm, in growing the firm, and creating a culture that has led us to being voted the #1 mid-sized employer in this area this past year. I understand this is not a perfect solution here. This is one of those complex problems that can only be tackled by bringing the community together. It was interesting hearing Mickey say that they do all these community groups, they're gonna bring them together. No one's done that yet for us. They seek out as many perspectives, ideas or thoughts as possible to hopefully generate a solution that is building a consensus and addressing all the concerns brought forward in a dignified way. Obviously, the clinic's current location has caused major negative outcomes, although it seems like they've all magically disappeared recently. I understand that the question that becomes, how do we find the appropriate location to mitigate the potential negative impact on the surrounding area in this new location? When I attended the informational meeting in February, I was shocked by the seeming lack of transparency and any well thought out plan to present to an audience of worried small business owners and community stakeholders. All of us have served the local community in a variety of capacities. We have asked very little from the government entities to preside over this municipality in return. The presentation made that evening by the representatives of the clinic, the mayor's office, and law enforcement was head scratching at best. When I heard about the volume of daily patients, upwards of 400 a day, most of which are coming from outside of the area. If they really want treatment, they should bring it to these people. And the subsequent volume and nature of criminal activity, I was astonished that this proposal was nearly crossing the finish line without any of our awareness or attempt at any engagement with the new neighbors. At the informational meeting, it was obvious that there was no prior intention from the public officials or the clinic owners in engaging any of us in this process until they were caught with their hand in the cookie jar. By the meeting, we all have read the news articles detailing the desperate accounts of the residents and business owners surrounding the current location, pleading for the clinic to be relocated before they are driven out of business, forced to move.
All we want to know is why is this best location and how can we work together to address our concerns? Maybe my personal anger and frustration comes from the fact that my career, and the same goes for the other stakeholders in this room, we would never treat people affected by a decision of this magnitude that we are personally responsible for making with as little respect as to what has been shown to this group collectively for the past few months. All of us in this room have worked hard to build small businesses that benefit the city in a variety of ways. And I guess I always felt that as a good, honest business person that's doing my best, we should at the very least be able to expect to have the ability to have a conversation with our elected officials, allowing us to understand how this is not going to destroy our livelihoods. Now, here we are in our second planning board meeting where many compelling arguments have been presented. The most compelling of which, in my opinion, is the Sylvian Learning Center, a long-established educational institution located less than 1,000 feet from the clinic. The executive director of this center has brought to this planning board's attention the fact that they've been notified by their parent organization that their corporate franchise license will be revoked if this permit is granted. This is based on long-standing corporate policy disallowing for a business of this nature to be located in such proximity with the learning center. The corporate policy makes perfect sense. How could anyone think it was a good idea to establish a clinic with this troubled track record next to a place of learning for children? From what I know of the responsibilities of a planning board, one of the most important matters to consider when granting an operational permit if granted, it's not going to put another business out of business that's in close proximity. Obviously, the clinic must feel pretty bullish about this approval process, given they went through the purchase of the building without the permit firmly in place. Why would any business purchase a property if they didn't know they were going to be able to operate it? It has felt like the deck is stacked against us from day one, and this permit process is a mere formality. Given that there are still so many unanswered questions, I implore this body to continue to investigate further before any formal vote is held. If you feel compelled to choose to act in favor of this proposal, you owe it to this group to take the time to outline how the city plans to mitigate or address the many concerns that have been brought to your attention over the past 2 meetings. How are you going to prevent the negative impacts on our suburban sleepy office park with no security whatsoever, an impact that is described by the current neighbors at the Central Avenue location as a bomb going off? Believe me, if the outcome doesn't turn out as promised, all the clinic's problems magically disappearing with a move down the road, the trouble and scrutiny this clinic is facing at its current location will pale in comparison to what is in store at the new one. When any new neighbor moves in under these circumstances, they should expect neighborhood to welcome them with open arms and a banana bread. All my fellow stakeholders and I've asked for all along is for someone from the clinic, the city, and or the county to sit down with us, look us in the eye, and the concerns that we have about this proposal. This is yet to happen, despite many pleas that have given up hope that it ever will. Because the sad truth is there isn't any answers, and there never was a plan. This whole proposal is based on a hope and a prayer, and the outcome will be different. The ordeal reminds me of an old HR saying, the best predictor of future performance is past performance. Time will tell if the old adage continues to be true. If it doesn't for the sake of everyone involved, I hope it doesn't for the sake of everyone, and I thank you for your time and consideration.
Very much.
And then question, can you say of your business?
Unfortunately. But yes, I owned a property in Albany for 10 years prior to this.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
None from me. Jubilation. Jubilation. Jennifer.
Great. I'll do my best. I'm not one for public speaking, especially for the board. I have referred to this gentleman's comment about the community coming together. Let's talk about how the father was made aware of the clinic moving in. Who found out? The bank manager of the Next Step Federal Credit Union. How did he find out? He read it in a paper. No one received a form letter, no one received an email, there were no flyers, stapled or taped anywhere. One person in an entire plaza read the paper and screamed, "Oh my God." Nobody was notified this was coming in. So for the community to come together, some transparency is required, and announcing it through the newspaper, yes, is announcing it, but it's very underhanded. And clearly it was the hope to put the clinic in before anyone was aware of it. And then when everything started going wrong, incidents started happening in parking lots. I don't know. In the very first meeting that the bank manager called, he screamed, "Oh my God." We asked Mrs. Jimenez about patient load. She said, "Oh, 200 to 300 a day. About 50, 60 people an hour." Okay, fine. The last meeting, same question was asked. She said 50, which is. Now, everyone that is in the plaza that's found out the clinic's moving in doesn't want it there. At that same meeting, the bank manager called, some glorified desk jockey from the city of Albany came and smiled at us and said, "Oh, talk to the businesses where it's currently sitting. They love having it there." Clearly not. Clearly, the city wants to move the clinic because the clinic, not all problems are attributed to it, but the clinic is having problems. Ms. Jimenez wants to move the clinic because she wants more space, she wants off-road access, all that. Have any of you actually driven into Pine West Plaza? You know how narrow it is, don't you? How small it is. You want to cram 50, 60 cars in there in an hour? Yeah, constantly. On top of, other patient loads for the other medical offices nearby. How about Daughters of Sarah Retirement Home? Vulnerable people. Eurasian House, it's a rehab center. And long-term care, vulnerable people. Dental offices come with medical equipment, needles, drugs. Those are targets. We have a sleep center. Those are targets. Lots of nice parked cars. Those are targets. When asked what she would do if something went wrong in the parking lot as a result of the sort of people that her clinic attracts, that go for the addicts, that try to sell them stuff, your response was, "I don't know." Okay, so she's hired some retired Albany police officers. Unless there is a 20-foot electrified fence surrounding the property, I'm not going to be content with the clinic there. I don't care about the drug addicts in this case. I have an uncle who fell down that pit. He's in a cell in Florida. I don't care anymore. I've cried it out. If they want to recover, fine. But it should not come at the expense of other hard workers. I just have a question. Were you Jennifer or Jubilation? Jubilation.
Thank you very much.
Can I just ask one question? What is the business that you work for? Dr. Wong's acupuncture office. Right. Where do you live? That's part of our question. Dogs. Thank you.
Jennifer?
My name is Jennifer Kajik. I work in Pine West Plaza. I live on Lake City. And yes, no worries. I just want to reconnect with you as the board to just continue to invite you to ask pointed questions and to make sure that you actually get answers. I'd like to tell a story too. In February, I went to a community meeting, the very first and the only one that was provided. And when the question was raised, what should we tell our clients? Because I have a client-based practice where people of all ages come in, seeking care, and need to come and fro and are impaired physically, right? So they're perhaps a disadvantage for being able to manage their own bodies. We asked, how should we explain to our clients the concerns that people traditionally would have with a methadone clinic in the area? There is definitely an assumption that's made by many, and we went with an open mind. And I'm telling you that Mickey Jimenez said 0. The question was met with a silent answer. It was extremely disheartening that a person that runs this clinic can't support me in communicating with my clients on how to best attempt to make people understand that this could potentially be safe. Not to mention the fact that there is just genuine concern. I understand that they're looking for a padded site, and it makes lots of sense because they certainly do to protect their client base as well. But the truth is there has been no communication regarding community outreach. There is no plan for the neighbors and community, and the effort to say that they will be, inspired to help and be a part of their community is very hard to believe, frankly, because the implications in the area are already very well established, not to mention the fact that there really has been no outreach. And so it's quite disappointing. And so Again and again, there have been questions, and insufficient at best, at times, no answer. And I think it is deeply disappointing. It does not leave me feeling comforted in any way about this. Not to mention, I spoke with you last time about the infrastructure concern. Where is the seeker? This is about community change and environmental impact. And that includes the people that participate in this area as it is, and all of our client base too. So while I certainly understand that lots of people need help, and I have been affected by addiction in my family as well. It's not unique, it's not special, but there's a saying that says, wherever you go, there you are. And if nothing changes, nothing changes. There is no plan for community preparation to manage this problem. The non-smoking nature of the facility means that people will extend out onto the street and into adjacent parking lots and for the opportunity for them to be in our building with no security presence is a deep concern. I invite you to really think about their answers because they are deeply inconsistent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rob?
Hi, everyone. I'm Rob Kind. I'm the current managing shareholder at Becker and Shermani, which is located at 7 Square, right next door to where One United Way. I've been with the firm for over 25 years. Firm has been in business for over 52 years. We've been lucky and currently employ over 100 individuals at our firm. My biggest concern is safety for my employees. We're scared. We're scared of what's going to happen if they move in. As we've been doing interviews with staff, our annual reviews and our stay interviews, people are very concerned. It's a super competitive market out there, and people will leave us. Our employees get poached every day through emails, LinkedIn, whatever. It's a very competitive market. I like where we are. I want to stay there for the rest of my career. I want to grow Becker and Shermani. It's a very good firm full of very good people. We do not want to leave, but if our people's safety is in jeopardy and something is happening in our parking lot, we come in early in the morning, some of us stay late at night. I can't possibly be there to protect all my employees all the time because I'm out in the field doing other things. We're very concerned. And if you cast a vote for this, you might be forcing us out of our current building and out of the Albany area. I don't want to move to Lake. I don't want to move to Clifton Park. I don't want to move to East Green. I want to stay where I am in Albany. And I don't know that I can do it. And I don't know that I can keep my employees safe. From the financial side, I'm also the managing member of 7 Washington Square, which owns our building. We've had tenants downstairs, a law firm and a not-for-profit. As soon as this was moving in, they're asking about how can we get out of the lease? We're gonna move. What are you doing for security? There's no fences. They're very concerned. So there's gonna be also a law firm that can just leave because they lease from us. They're gonna walk. And a not-for-profit that's just gonna leave and go somewhere else. They are full of good people, good employees. We've never had any problem in our building. And they're just gonna walk out. So if you cast your vote, they're gonna walk away another 2 good companies and a not-for-profit company that are just gonna leave the area. And that's just me being honest with you guys. I'm not against Camino Nuevo. I think they're good people doing good services, but this is what we're gonna be doing. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah.
Any questions for me?
So you stated where you live?
I live in Voorheesville, New York. So I was born in Albany County, born in Bethlehem, and now reside in Voorheesville. So I've been in the area my whole life, almost 48 years.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it.
Jeffrey?
Good evening, my name is Jeffrey Shapiro. I represent the accounting firm Teal Becker. Heeding to the chairman's instructions, I'll try not to be repetitive. I'll keep it concise, but I am an attorney, so no promises. There are two themes I want to cover for the board today, and that's compatibility and safety. Pine West Plaza hosts a wide range of services and institutions and businesses, law firms, accounting firms, educational institutions. I don't need to lecture the board about compatibility. You're just as much of an expert as anyone else. But I do think we need to discuss transportation, parking, and safety, because as you heard here today, people are scared, people are concerned, they want information, they want communication. And I know that's what you're here to do. And I want to help facilitate that as much as I can in my capacity. Before decisions are made without people feeling heard. Safety is a concern. There's a tutoring center, as you heard, that's going to have to make a choice between relocating or asking parents to drop off their kids in what's been described as a defendable space. I do not think that's an appropriate position to put a tutoring center who services kids of all ages. And that brings me to my second point, safety. I know people have voiced their opinion about safety. They're referencing news articles, but when I come to these hearings, I want to bring something more concrete. Even though their concerns are more than valid, I want something to refer to. I have here a study, the effect of outpatient methadone maintenance treatment facilities on place-based crime. Journal of Experimental Criminology from 2018. It's a study that was conducted in 2007 through 2017 in Philadelphia. And the study found an increase in crime and moderate increase in drug-related crime near these facilities. Of course, studies always have competing studies. There's always competing commentary. I don't want you to think I'm nitpicking here or cherry-picking certain studies just to prove my point. But I think when studies like this exist, you need to take a hard look at the consequences of certain decisions in certain locations. And with proximity right next to a tutoring center, proximity next to people who want to come into work into a safe environment every day, I think you owe it to them to really take a hard look about those consequences. And there's a willingness to be part of the solution. I know investment was made into the building. Offers have been made for that purchase of the building, so they reinvest in their current location and to make the upgrades that they need to make to stay in their current community. And it sounds like they're having success. I don't want to interrupt their momentum by making them relocate to this facility. So I think it's a reasonable alternative solution to reinvest money into their current spot. Thank you for the board's time.
Thank you, Judge.
Jeffrey.
Right, this is in Queensberry. I lived in Albany for 7 years, where I went to college and law school. Thank you.
Where did you go?
You Albany and then Albany Law.
Albany.
Yes, all Albany.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So then you have the right from Silver.
Yes.
So the letter. Remember to speak. I think it's the same one who spoke. He's next covering.
Do we have any questions for the applicant and or speakers? On this applicant?
If somebody has questions, I would like them to go first and just doing a quick research.
I just have one question is, what are the hours of operation going to be?
It's at 9,
Yeah.
6:30 to 5, Monday, Thursday, Friday, 6 p.m. on Tuesdays,
Yeah.
Wednesdays, and
7 to
7 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Saturday. Page 2 of our concept name.
Friday. I have several. So it's more of an allergies. So I don't know if you guys wanna come back up or stay there. Either way. So I guess the question, I have several questions based upon what I heard today, and I'm very familiar, I'm an Arbor Hill resident, so I'm very familiar with your clinic. So I'm and I'm familiar with your organization through a mutual friend who actually represents you in the capacity. So, so just to get that out of the way. I'm hearing that there's a daycare center nearby. Is your foot between your building and the daycare center? I believe there's, if I'm doing my research, and it's very quick and dirty, so I could be a little bit wrong, but I believe there has to be a certain footage between those two by law. Do you know if your building is within that foot?
Are you talking about the new location?
The new location, yes, I'm only talking about the new location, not the old, the new location is what's in front of us.
I'll have through the expert over here.
We're not sure about the information on the distance of the other tenant.
So, okay, so that's something that I think should be researched. Because you may have an issue there if it's. I didn't hear about the daycare center until just the gentleman just now. But I believe that they're going to be.
It's to clarify, it's a learning.
It's a
center,
learning
not
center, yeah.
It's two different organizations, not us.
But still, it says child care program. It may qualify, it may not, I don't know. So that I think that should be looked into. Because that may or may not determine whether or not that was a good investment. So that's one of the issues I'm seeing. There was a lot of conversation around security, and I understand and I recognize that there was a lot of security issues with your location on Central Avenue. And I would assume that those security issues will follow as you move to the new place. What is your plan to make sure that the people visiting your clinic who are there for treatment are being safe, as well as your neighbors? What plan do you have?
Well, I'll start off. I'm David Collins, I'm the chief medical officer of the CASIA network. So in addition to my training, I supervise all of the doctors throughout our 6 outpatient treatment programs throughout the state, our 8 residential facilities throughout New York City. So we have similar programs that we have Camino Nuevo in Albany. We have programs in Buffalo, in Dunkirk, New York, 2 in the Bronx, and 1 in Brooklyn also. So we're very experienced at what we do. One of the larger providers in the state of New York. Security we take very seriously. So there's security that is mandated by the regulatory entities in terms of number of security guards that are present on site during operational hours. And we also provide additional security externally outside of the building to ensure that there's a flow of the traffic to the building and away from the building. So security is something that we invest in heavily. As was stated earlier, our director of security for our Albany location, as well as for our locations in New York City and up in Buffalo, we've invested in retired police officers who know law enforcement, know strategies to educate our security guards, and are on site daily to ensure the safety of our clients, as well as of our staff and those that are our neighbors. You made a statement about the issues following Camino Nuevo to its new location. My concern is the issues that will remain at Central Avenue. Central Avenue, the issues that are there in terms of crime and drug usage and drug selling, that will not leave that area. So that needs to be a concern also. I envision that to be more of a concern than issues that will follow our clients, Camino Nuevo. Many of the issues that are publicized in the area around Central Avenue currently involve individuals that are not our clients. Those usually are the perpetrators who intend to victimize our clients. So
those are the ones that I'm talking about that may follow, because your clients are in one area, for lack of a better term. And if their goal is to victimize your clients, they're going to follow your clients to where they think they can be victimized. Or that's it, that may
Sorry, the difference is, we're gonna own the property. right now, we are in a building where we're not even the only tenant. And I heard one of our tenants speak today. It's very difficult to even tell someone to leave when they can say, "Hey, I'm gonna see someone in the building." Being in a padded area and the way we envision our security is gonna be very tight. And to tell someone you're on private property, and have the ability to tell them to leave it brings a whole different approach on like what we have right now in a business area like Central Avenue. So I don't envision that that's gonna follow. And it's not gonna be folks standing in corners. There will be also customers, right? Like we see now, it's very difficult for our security team. And in fact, they work very closely with the police, when they see dealers, because we want to be good neighbors, so we report things as we see it as well, because that's our community. But I don't envision that going over to One United Way at all.
I think, and I'm just gonna leave it here, I hear what you're saying. And it sounds like you guys do have a vision or maybe a plan for your security. I highly suggest you talk to your proposed neighbors. And let them know about that plan, because I think that, I can tell you all day, at the end of the day, I'm not there. And I think the people who will be affected most would want to hear, it sounds like they're looking to hear from you.
Yeah.
On that, so I'm gonna leave that there.
I'd like to add something.
Sure.
To what Dr. Calamo said, so just to add to the security plan, I just want to note that our staff is in-house staff, it's not outsourced. And we have also made
Your security staff?
security staff,
Okay,
yeah.
very good.
And we also have made an investment in the property with surveillance equipment, cameras and other type of systems. I think Scott, our security director, wanted to comment.
Yes, Scott Gavigan, I'm a former police detective out in the Arbor Hill area for 28 years. I came to Camino Nuevo 2 years ago, and I can tell you in regards to if we're talking about this area, and I've done thousands and thousands of drug buys over the last 28 years. I've been a detective for 25 years. I've done thousands of drug buys. A drug dealer is never, ever, ever going to put himself in an isolated area like One United Way to do a drug sale. I can tell you this. Jim John, how many provide All States Mall, Walmart, Home Depot, places where they can blend in. They will never put themselves in a situation where they're trapped. You gotta remember this is business.
Plenty of places to hide in this office.
Well,
You're not in a padded area.
Control, Chris.
And there's trees everywhere,
They're not.
The conversation needs to be directed at the board to questions coming from the board members. We're not going to go back and forth between the audience. We understand this is a very, we understand how it happened. I'm addressing it now. What I'm trying to allow is for everybody to express themselves in this public forum so that when we make our decision, everybody knows that they were heard. Your question should be directed to board member Glenessa.
Based on my training experience, a drug dealer has never been put in a situation where he's gonna come to a place like United Way to trap himself, stand out, to be in an area where you're recognized, you can be seen, you're not blending in. And with the security we have inside and outside the building, they'd be recognized immediately. So with that said, based on my training experience, I can tell you that they're not gonna go to a place like United Way to put themselves in an area where they stand out. Keep it simple.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
There's also a discrepancy that I'm hearing. And hopefully you guys can help me with this regarding the number of people who are being served daily. I've heard 400, I've heard 50, in the application it says 150. So my question is like, what are your current daily numbers?
Yeah, let me give you the current census.
Okay.
Right now, close to just 400, and we've been close to admission, right? So when we discharge some, the numbers are gonna fluctuate as we update them and come to the meetings.
So are you saying the 400 number is the number of patients you have in total?
in total.
Okay, but I think the question is, how many of those patients will you be seeing?
So
on a
an
daily
average is
basis?
200. The current census is close to between, 150, 200. It fluctuates because depending when they're gonna schedule. But the last breakdown, and the majority, by the way, even though it says here that we're open till 6, I can tell you that the majority, about half of what we see is between the hours of 6:30 in the morning and 10 a.m. Between 10 and Scott is here because he works with the flow. You're not gonna see that many. So half of those individuals are seeing why, because they gotta get to work. So they're coming in early in the morning, getting their medication and leaving like within 5-10 minutes. Because they gotta get to work, and that's our goal, to get these individuals out. So the current census is that now, that we're seeing less folks between those hours. Obviously, when we move, again, if we're gonna continue to grow, the numbers are gonna fluctuate. What I want the committee to understand is that they're scheduled, just like a doctor's office. So if my time frame was from 6:30 to 6:45, I need to get to that appointment between 6:30 and 6:45. So it's not at random for them to show up whenever they want. There are scheduled appointments, even if they're gonna see a counselor, or if they need to see the medical doctor. So every individual has a scheduled time, they're not just coming in whenever they want, unless they are in crisis, and they wanna speak to someone, which we're always gonna welcome. But there is a set schedule, and those patients or clients are held to that schedule.
And how about transportation, because Central Avenue is on a bus route, very central location. Now you're in a more remote location. How do you expect your patients to find you? And I'm looking more towards the traffic affected in that area. Are they driving? Are they taking a bus? Are they taking a Medicab? Like, it could be a mix, but like, how do you expect from going from a urban location to a more suburban or less traveled location, or less accessible location, I should say, how that would work?
And so we do have a breakdown, right, a variety of how many are coming by cars, individuals that are driving themselves to the clinic versus the individuals that are taking CDTA, which we have right now, almost 89 that are taking the bus. And then we have probably about 125 that are taking Medicab. And then the rest are driving themselves.
So it sounds about half are taking some form of public transportation, and the other half are private transportation.
So maybe a fourth right now are taking the CDTA, because we only did out of 400, like only 89 are taking CDTA.
But then you said the Medicab, that's what I mean.
Oh, Medicab, yeah, well.
I included that in the public.
Yeah.
No worries. Okay, I think I have, I do have, like I said, I just think.
Your answer to the, I apologize. The public comment period is over, so. There's no buts.
No,
There is no button.
There's no buts.
no, the public comment period is over.
Sorry.
I think that there has to be a community discussion. I'm just, these are my own comments. There has to be a community discussion on what people can expect. Because there's a lot of, your prospective neighbors are anxious. And, I understand, again, living in this area, that corner is problematic. Whether you're there or not, it's going to be problematic. It just is a problematic corner of Central Avenue. And so, I understand how news can conflate and do whatever it does. It's totally, I get that part. I just think there should just be more conversation. That's my thoughts. I did have one last question for the gentleman. Usu?
Which one?
Yes, right, the attorney.
It's great.
My rights. You and your, for the daycare center, and I'm using this daycare center because I don't know. It's still unclear what it's categorized as. What does a defendable space mean? You said that, I don't understand what that means.
That was a quote from their first initial comments. That it's a defendable space, the new location that they have.
Oh,
It means it's private property. and-
got it, okay, I just didn't know that, I understand.
I had the same question.
Okay, that was my question for you.
And if I just may quickly follow up.
I'll leave it up to the chair to make sure.
Now, my clients and the opposition have been here, and you have been listening to the applicants continue extended comments. If they could be yielded a brief amount of time to respond directly to what was answered to today as a quick rebuttal, so that they can be heard today, that would be greatly appreciated.
That's up to the chair.
And that will help facilitate the lack of back and forth.
We're done with back and forth. We had our opportunity for comments. The questions came from the board, and that is the direction in which questions are going. If other board members have questions on any of the applicants or the folks that spoke, then we will address that way. But it's not a debate or an exchange. Board members, do we have any additional comments and questions?
Yes.
Okay, Rachel.
So my first question, I think it sort of, might satisfy some of the concerns from the gentleman in the back of the room is, I'm hearing a lot of the resistance, right, is due to feeling like they were blindsided, like this move was made without any engagement of the community, and folks have safety concerns, et cetera. I understand, I think it was Kevin mentioned, or maybe it was you in your initial presentation, said you're gonna have these monthly community advisory boards, which I was really excited to hear based on some of the discourse that we heard at the last meeting. And so then I was disappointed to hear from the folks representing the community that they feel like there hasn't been any communication. And so my first question is just, from your perspective, what outreach have you done? How have you tried to answer and address the questions that they've raised? Because I think regardless of who's right, who's wrong, what perspectives are valid, if there is the potential for everyone occupying this space together, it would benefit everyone to be good neighbors and to be in good standing with one another. So from your perspective, what have you done to engage the neighbors and to provide solid answers and data that addresses some of their concerns?
No, and thank you for bringing that up, because I wanted to kind of elaborate after I heard her comment. Yes, the initial meeting that we were invited to, first of all, there was no agenda. I was invited to that meeting. I didn't even know what to expect at that meeting, and so it was law enforcement. So it wasn't like a meeting that was planned. And frankly, I felt attacked by many folks that were there. There was a lot of aggression in their comments. And so I rather just kind of say, allow people to vent, and that's why I wasn't responding with a lot of answers. That said, Scott was with me, and subsequent to that, he has made himself visible to visit the neighbors. Once we purchased the building, one of the plans that we were discussing was, even while we're going, the chin pack meetings there now, was to see how can we have this meeting? We can welcome them to come over, or I'm open to meet with them. Communication is going to be essential. This is how we started. Kevin, who spoke, having these community meetings to dissipate, a lot of the fears, or just talk about what are their concerns will be helpful. And I'm all for starting those, monthly. It's just determining the date and coming up with, an agenda and where to have it.
And also, when I went to two of the office buildings, there's a gentleman, Bud, I think he runs all the office buildings, I believe, for everyone. For Tui, yes, Bud. I mentioned him, I gave him my phone number, and I stated that anyone who would like to speak to me individually, and it seems like security concerns are the biggest thing for most people, as I hear. I've left my phone number. I've been willing to go to their offices anytime, day, place, you name it. You call me. We can organize something, and I'll go and I'll speak to them directly. and they can hit me with any questions they want. We can have a back and forth and go through it, and if it makes, I know Teal Becker, represented here by several people, that if it makes it any easier for you guys to sit down with me and tell me
questions.
Oh, sorry. Okay. You said, you can have people addressing.
I should be addressing us.
Okay. I'll leave that open, that if anyone want to talk to me, I've left my number for everybody there.
I would, and this is just, me speaking, but I would strongly encourage that going beyond saying I'm available, I would start scheduling meetings. I would reach out directly to the tenants so that you have an opportunity to engage with them and provide answers to their concerns. Because I think there is a difference between making yourself available, kind of passively, and actively demonstrating that you are interested. And from your perspective, you might be doing that by offering your number, but I think given the level of concern coming from the tenants, having your group take the onus of saying, we would like to schedule a meeting, here are 3-4 dates that we are available to discuss with them, the concerns of any of the community members, because I don't see how this happens successfully without mending some of the distrust that's happened. So that's more of a statement than a question. I did have another question just in regards to security. There have been several comments that, some of the negative outcomes, whatever, have turned around a bit in the last few years, that things have felt more stable, or I'm not phrasing it well, but there's been kind of this inference that, in the last few years, there's been kind of an upswing, and I'm just curious from your perspective, have you felt that as well? And if so, what's changed? What things have happened differently on your end, or with security, or with the community, that's led to better outcomes? I'm curious about that, for how that's going to translate in your location.
I think having experienced law enforcement that are from the city of Albany, and their expertise in training our security guards to look at things a little different. We also, because of their expertise, were able to recruit higher level functioning security guards. Not everyone can work in addiction fields just like, any other field, right? So I think we've been a lot more selective with our team. The mentoring that they've gotten from our law enforcement has definitely helped. And I think the other thing is that their external focus in the community. I mean, Scott is always out there. He knows his neighbors. He does those perimeter checks. He's out making sure, even if a neighbor is feeling a little unsafe, that has nothing to do with us, but they feel at ease. You heard Kevin before that we started a program with volunteers, and many of them were our clients, by the way, sweeping the streets, trying to be good neighbors, because that's what it was all about. How do we make the community feel? There's a school not far on Sherman Street. So we wanted to make sure that those parents felt safe when the children were coming, and we started this program together. And by the way, Kevin had staff, including himself, that joined efforts. So it was like bringing the community together. So those were some of the changes that we made. We also own a building, Capital District Latinos. So we're across the street. So, it behooves us to ensure that our neighbors feel safe and that we're all working together to make the community better. So I think that was a big help.
My final comment, I think, and I'm directing it to you all, but also to the folks, who spoke. I think often the conversation around providing treatment for substance use, I have a public health background. And so one of the things that I see often is there's almost this framing of, it's either we take care of people with substance use or we take care of the existing community. And I think both sides of the table could stand to try to listen to one another a little bit better and share resources and information about, we want to protect children. Children also have the possibility of becoming addicts. So being really mindful that it's not a us and them situation, and how can we open the space up for that narrative so that people aren't afraid. And I've heard a lot of people say they're not afraid of the patients that are coming in, they're afraid of the predators that might follow the patients. But even just helping to shift the mindset and really leveraging what resources you have to try to engage people in conversation, because I think, just
we don't change minds usually with data and statistics. We change minds by having a connection with people. And so working to build those relationships where you can demonstrate, you know, not just the value of the work, but how, you know, providing this space. I might argue that children being aware of people going in to receive treatment for addiction is actually a good thing for children to learn early on that addiction exists and there needs to be treatment options. That might not be the correct perspective, but I think one could make that argument. And so just how do we work together to better make understanding on both sides of how we exist in the world together, because as everyone has said, we all know folks who have been impacted. It's not a working people versus not working people, etc. But it sure feels like there's a pretty big divide, and I'd love to see some progress made towards unifying. Thanks for inviting me.
I do want to take a moment to correct the record because I did a little bit more digging on the distance requirement, and opioid are not included. Methadone clinics are not included in that space requirement, so I wanted to correct the record. Thank you on that one.
Sure.
I have a couple questions. I'm also a resident of Albany. I live near Washington Park myself. From parameter of Central Avenue, it's quite far. I do first-hand see some of the things. So some of the questions that have crossed my mind are related to the distance radius in which you're servicing your clients. Is there something that you could speak about that? Coupled with requirements of the Medi-Cabs. Are the Medi-Cabs required, you know, like ambulances where they're required to hold the patient until they get to the hospital? Are the Medi-Cabs required to wait for the patient to receive their treatment and then leave, or does the Medi-Cabs rules primarily control?
Okay, so,
Just the, yes,
the first question, so you're asking the radius of the clients that are coming.
yeah,
So the breakdown we have right now, we have 184 from Albany County alone.
Right.
We have about 42 coming from Saratoga County, 34 from Rensselaer, 33 from Warren, Schenectady 28, Columbia County 26, Washington County 24, Fulton County 22, Greene County 18, Montgomery 10, Schoharie 7, Herkimer 6, 2 from Ulster and 1 from Dutchess. So that's basically us right there. As far as Medi-Cabs, we have about 192 clients that utilize Medi-Cabs. And
how do they work? I know, like,
and so it's a variety. Most of them are group. So if they're coming from Montgomery County, for instance, you know, this is Medicaid dollars and it's Medicaid reimbursed. So they try to be cost effective. So if you need to go to Albany Med, I'm going to Camino Nuevo, we may be in the same cab. So they are dropping them off in front of the clinic with a schedule as to when they're gonna come. Where security has done a phenomenal job is when they're ready to pick up, if the client's not out yet, then they're basically telling them where they have to park and
that's the hard part.
it was Central Ave. And that was one of, by the way, one of the biggest complaints that we had from the meters, and they were rightfully so, because they will be double, triple parking fine. So that one is one of the things that has been resolved, and we know that that's not going to be an issue. Again, having a private parking lot and having a flow where Medi-Cabs when they come in, because again, these are scheduled appointments, so we know when they're done. The other thing is people talk about the loitering, right? They're clients, they have rights. They want to go out to buy a coffee or they want a cigarette break. We can't tell them you got to stay in, although we do make that as an option. We have a waiting room. They can simply stay inside, or if they go out, that they can't loiter, right? So that's the supervision comes in of where they're going in the environment. So the suggestion of having a picnic table, having a designated smoking area, absolutely. Those are great suggestions that we're all going to be considering.
Okay. And just for my clarity, because I know I've seen addicts, I live right by Washington Park, I understand the impact. What is it, when someone comes in, can you describe what is it that they receive and what that time frame is? And there's many people that are active participants in the community, as they go to work, but just for clarity, like, what is the duration of the time that it can entail?
Well, that's hard to say because everybody's different. And I will say this. This is a voluntary program.
Sure.
So no one's twisting their arm to come in.
People want to be.
They want the help. And once they're ready, yes, they may be pretty broken when they first come in. But once they accept that, the program, and remember, this is a regulated program. So there's, the whole criteria for the program to work for them. And so once they come in and assessment's done, we have a doctor that does an assessment. And depending on the level, there's times where we have to refer them to an inpatient or a detox for them to go first and then come to an outpatient. I mean, we're an outpatient program. But they do have a whole assessment, that's a comprehensive assessment that's done to determine the best level of care for them.
Is your building classified to have people sleep there?
Yeah.
No, it's completely outpatient.
Yeah.
Are they flowers?
No.
I have a question. So the Medicaps come back typically, and there's dedicated, you have enough appropriate parking spots associated with those regular drop-offs.
Or at 175, that's a challenge. I don't know.
Central Avenue,
Yeah.
but in the new location.
Oh, yeah.
Typically, if they don't have to, if a client is not meeting with a counselor or has something else to do, the Medicaid will stay. Just so you know, majority of them will, because it's only, say 10 minutes.
Sure.
They will stay. We actually ask them to stay so that people aren't stuck. They can get in, get out. So most do drop off, they dose, and they leave. So.
How often do they come? Every day?
Well, it depends, right? So if someone new and the recovery, they're gonna be coming in every day. And as they continue to improve, they come less and less. Yeah, they get, the privilege of getting take-home bottles. And so they may take 1 week. As they continue to do better, it's 2 weeks. Some of them are coming in just once a month, depending again on where they're at in their recovery.
So I want to echo the conversation that Rachel had. Sounds like your new community really wants some outreach, setting a designated time, maybe not just once, but twice, just having a good full conversation with Trace. If you're involved, just double check the beat officer map. It looks like it's a beat 12, the City of Albany Police Department. There is a beat officer there.
Chuck Silver or Justin? Okay.
Justin Wallace.
Yes.
I would really encourage him to be part of that conversation too, sort of have like that, the City of Albany space.
He's actually become an outreach officer, so Steve Silver and Joe Lynch are now the beat officers, just about with
With whatever the city,
Yeah.
so whatever the City of Albany website states your beat officer.
I have open communications with those guys, so I do, I can get them, yes, I can get them involved, talk to them every day.
So some of the challenges that I think my community faces is that the police officers are bifurcated in different zones. So it's often very difficult to get those one conversation, which are corner issues coupled that we talked about, coupled with the worries of the community. But I think in this particular case, that zone is quite large, and using there as an applicant could be quite helpful in continuing conversations. There's a lot of concerns here that maybe I also am not informed about the process and asking questions innocently. How long do people stay? What do they do? Because I don't know, but I see indirectly myself. So I think these are maybe some concerns you can clear the footage to filters. Yeah. Yes.
I think I don't have any specific questions, but I also want to emphasize what everyone else has said about outreach. The fact that you guys really need to to take the initiative there. I think that would go a long way towards showing respect.
And just as an example, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, Whitney Young, I used to be a board member for them. Has a regular clinic that doesn't have the issues. They're in an urban environment as well, but it's not, but they're not central. I understand that they're two different places. Maybe reaching out to them and seeing what's successful for them. That may help as well.
Question. You mentioned that you're one of the largest providers in New York State.
Correct.
How many facilities did you say? 6?
6 outpatient mental treatment programs, yes.
Yeah. Have you made a physical move in any of the other 5 states?
Well, our Dunkirk site is about 2 years old. And so that was in Albany, in a padded sort of location. So many of the conversations that we're having here, we had there also. Ramon Velez was open maybe.
We've established a number of new locations, but a specific relocation. I don't think we've done a relocation. We've done a lot of new. And that's Stockbridge in Buffalo, Dunkirk, and a number of New York City.
And even Camino Nuevo, a decade ago.
Understood. I guess the reason for my question was you're familiar with.
So actually, Camino Nuevo, we relocated from 3rd floor, the 1st floor. So big.
Well, nonetheless, you're familiar with things that is created with your moves. And to my colleagues' general point about engaging the anxious that are sitting behind you, I would expect a little more oomph, given that you're familiar with this. So I think for board, we're finished with our questions. We'll turn over to staff for comment.
Okay. So this is following up from our previous planning board meeting. We had requested additional information regarding current and expected future use. So to your previous question, Vanessa, this was an estimation that Jesus had provided. So approximately 48% of the clients utilize public transportation. And 51% utilize taxi services such as Medicabs, and 1% personal vehicles. Per the use specific standard, there's only one in the USDO for use of this. We required a comment from the chief supervisor of traffic engineering. And he found that over 11.5 hours of weekday operation, which that's an estimation, obviously, about 13.5 clients per hour total, with 48% or approximately 6.5 clients per hour arriving by vehicle is not a significant increase in traffic. And he also found that during peak hours of 6:30 to 11 a.m., which is about 4.5 hours, 33 clients per hour, or about 16 clients arriving by vehicle is not a significant increase in traffic. We also received a letter yesterday from CTA, which was dated from last week, which was provided to Camino Nuevo as well, stating that the weekday service of route bus number 114 will be extended to stop at United Way Drive at Washington Ave Extension, which will service Camino Nuevo facility every 45 to 60 minutes from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and that would be beginning basically when they move in, if they move in. And that was a firm commitment, and that letter is in the project folder. We also did speak with APD regarding the existing location and any concerns for the proposed location. We got the next page. This was covered in the previous meeting as well. We just wanted to reiterate that the action is classified as a type 2 action under seeker. into the public comments, I could just more specifically read that out loud, that it is a reuse of a, in this case, commercial structure, a structure containing mixed commercial uses where the commercial use is a permitted use, in this case conditionally permitted use under the applicable zoning law ordinance, including permitted by special use permit, and the action does not meet or exceed any of the thresholds in section 6.174 of this part. So that's why there hasn't been that kind of additional seeker review to that person's comment question. So just wanted to acknowledge that as well. The application was referred to the Albany County Planning Board pursuant to New York State General Municipal Law 239M at the end of May. And we received their public comment back that they would defer to local consideration. They found the proposed action will have no impact on jurisdictional determinant referring to this case, nor will it have significant countywide or intermunicipal impacts. And then a couple other follow-ups we had. The applicant had confirmed that the 6 existing exterior lights from parking lot will remain, and we found them to be consistent with the code. The applicant also confirmed they will provide bike parking, and we just actually received a revised site plan today. So I did a little bit of adjusting. And the staff report you would have received last Friday has been adjusted. So they've located the bike parking kind of directly next to the entrance. And the existing parking lot currently contains 2 ADA parking spaces. We found a third was required for the code, national ADA code, where 1 is van accessible, and that has also been revised in the new site plan that was provided. So those 2 kind of outstanding conditions have been addressed. Those were the kind of site plan and code related outstanding items from the planning perspective.
All right. Council, anything to add?
Yeah, I just want to remind all the board members and everyone, even though we got a lot of comments, a lot of active participation, there's 7 specific criteria to consider when ultimately voting on this. So just keep that in mind. It's in the last page of the staff reports. You need to refer to the.
Let's time the chair will entertain a motion on the floor, in the board, to approve the conditional use permit. Is there a motion?
I have a question. I have concerns. What if we don't all come to an agreement for 700?
I can read the individual things would be your own decision ultimately. You don't need to actually explain like which ones when you vote. It would be more.
Based.
If anything is challenged, you would need to have that established.
More just reiterating the purview of the planning board. Compared to maybe some of the public comments that have agreed.
So what if we here's my thinking. And maybe there's a scenario that surrounds it. I'm not in tune with all of these 7 criteria. Not gonna go into which one, but I'm not, but I also don't think it's a lost cause. I really would like, and I know we can't mandate it, but I would like to table this to allow for.
Member of the board, you can motion.
That I can do that.
Can I
move to table this. Well, no, go ahead.
What would be the information?
Yeah, I would want them to connect with the community. And come back, maybe table it for 60 days. I don't know if I can do, that's why I'm asking the question. Before I make a motion.
You can move to table, you can move to defer. Table is different. When you have to raise it from the table, you have to have a date specific. Okay, that's part of the motion. But I believe the motion.
And I would like to have it at a date specific. I don't want this lingering.
Yeah, I also. What about for our next planning board meeting? The date
that use that date as like, everybody has to have.
Our next planning board meeting is less than a month away. I'm not sure if that's enough time, especially with a holiday smacked in and stuff.
The next meeting would be September 3rd. The
Yeah.
next meeting after that would be October 1st.
I'm leaning more towards October. Given enough time.
That would be my thought as well, just not a parent, but I feel like it's like a very busy, kids going back to school, holiday weekends, but I also don't want to delay things inevitably, but I also am in support of deferring until there's been a chance for communication to resolve some of that.
So I'll make the motion to table this matter until our October 1st, 2024 planning board meeting.
Second.
Been moved by Vanessa to table this project into the October 3rd planning
Planning board.
planning board meeting.
It's okay. What are the goals of, what are you expecting to see?
Well, my hope is that they have an opportunity to talk.
Can I process the motion first? It's been moved and properly seconded. Are there any debates on the motion from the board? Now.
Now you're good. Maybe it might be wise for us to set some parameters, like meeting minutes for the meeting, would be good, provide some meeting minutes. Provide some pretty details that some of the people, are asking about.
Is that, I have
I
to
think
ask legal.
we can
Is
ask
that
that.
legal?
If that's
Put
what
those
I'm-
parameters. That could be a proviso outside the motion.
Can you repeat that or just checking?
So I just wanted to confirm that October 1st was the date.
Yes.
Because sometimes it's not always the first date.
Shawty was outlining particular things to
Yeah.
work on. I'm saying that is outside, should be a proviso to the motion to table for things certain is.
I'm gonna provide a friendly amendment to my motion to say that this be tabled until our October meeting dates. We don't know exactly.
That's what we have on.
Okay, so it's October.
Tuesdays. All right, perfect. So got the date and then so the question whether you can require specific. I would just go with table it. It would probably be in everyone's best interest to produce something along those lines of as we've discussed, but keeping the motion narrow is probably.
Okay.
You accept the amendment, okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. Are there any additional questions? Hearing none, all in favor of tabling a project, please say aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Without objection from the board, I would like to move into recess.
Yes, no, that's.
5-minute recess, and then we will reconvene. Martin, I need to pass you the gavel. Okay, have a committee, 15-minute thing or. Okay, for the chair to get us through the rest of this.
Come on, thank you.
Okay.
know if I have to read the other side. But here. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is project 557. Conditional use permit, demolition review, waiver of street amenities and development plan review. And it is for 124 to 133 Henry Johnson Boulevard, 238, 241, 242, 248, 250 First Street, 180, 331, 333, and 337 Clinton Avenue. Let's see, representing agent is Lobella Associates. What's going on? Okay. Good evening.
My name is Kelsey Carr. I'm a civil engineer from Labella Associates, and I'm joined by Adam Driscoll and Jen Higgins with Home Leasing. Our architect had to leave, but if you have any questions, they can ask me. So we've been in front of you guys already with this project, but just to kind of give a quick recap. I don't know if you can go to the next slide. Yes. Just for some context. So we have the redevelopment project that is subject to your review involves 3 major development plans. So the first is a new 38 unit, 4-story mixed use building at the corner of First Street and Henry Johnson Boulevard. And that's the one that needs a conditional use permit for the small portion of the general retail space that falls within the MUNE district. So it's roughly 630 square feet of that use that fall within that zone. The next development is a new 10 unit, 3-story townhouse building on the opposite side of Henry Johnson Boulevard. And then the third is a new 12 unit, 3-story townhouse building at 180 Clinton Ave. And that is the one that involves the demolition of the existing dry cleaner building. So the design for each of these 3 sites is fully zoning compliant with the exception of the one waiver that we need for the mixed use site for the street amenities. And then we are meeting the parking requirements for all of the sites. Do you want to go to the next slide? So just to give a quick recap of where we're at. So we already talked about the approvals that we're seeking. Basically, at this point, we have addressed all comments from engineering, fire, forestry, general services, planning, and traffic. And we've responded to all comments from the water department. And basically, any approval will be conditional upon the water department's final approval of the sanitary sewer extension. We are appearing before the Historic Resource Commission on Thursday for the certificate of appropriateness, but we don't expect any issues there. And then just really quickly, because these were concerns that were brought up in our previous meetings. In May, we provided a memo regarding the emergency egress for 180 Clinton Avenue. Basically, because of the steep topography at the rear of the site, we cannot provide an egress out of the rear of the building. But the design as is does meet code requirements. And then also in May, we provided a separate memo regarding property management and how Home Leasing is going to approach that for these properties. So at this time, we feel that we have adequately addressed all of the comments and concerns that have been raised. So we are hoping for positive approvals of the applications this evening. But if you guys have any questions, we're happy to have further discussion.
Any questions from the board?
I do not have any questions.
Okay. Any members of the public?
No.
And so, comments from staff?
Yes. Just couple of go over. Just reiterate that you issued a negative declaration at the July planning board meeting. As you mentioned, all outstanding departmental comments have been addressed, save the water department. And the HRC will be reviewing DPR 0204, which is 180 Clinton Ave, as well as a minor DPR. And then the minor DPR ultimately have review and approval by the chief planning officer, aka Brad. Which we also don't have any outstanding comments of, again, with the exception of water department. So we expect those to be approved as well. I'm excited. Just to reiterate as well, for no to any changes to the Henry Johnson Boulevard townhouses. All the off-street parking requirements have been met because there are 0. They have provided off-street parking in excess of the requirement because there is not any required. And it meets all the landscaping, screening and buffering requirements as well as the building and streetscape design and outdoor lighting. We do recommend a condition related to lot line modification as there are currently 8 parcels, which we merged into 1. For the mixed use building, it does meet the outdoor, indoor, passive, active recreation space requirement. With all the proposed community room, fitness area, resident hub, outdoor passive green space, and the public parklet at the corner of Clinton and Henry Thompson. They are seeking a waiver from the standard of the street amenity requirement, as they had previously proposed 5 bike racks along Henry Johnson and 3 along First Street, which we thought was a bit crowded, so we'd actually kind of recommended that they downsize that and seek a waiver from the planning board for this standard. So they're currently proposing 2 bike racks, each along Henry Johnson Boulevard and First Street. The project is eligible for 4 parking requirement reductions, where 14 spaces are required, and they are proposing 14 off-street parking spaces with 1 ADA and 1 EV charging space. The project also requires 60% enclosed bike parking and 19 indoor spaces are provided to meet that as well. And again, I recommend a lot line modification condition of approval, as it currently consists of 9 individual parcels. For 180 Clinton Ave, it meets all dimensional standards and is below the maximum impervious lot coverage. A lot line modification will be needed as it would need to be subdivided. It currently consists of 1 parcel with 4 lots proposed. There's no parking required, and no off-street parking spaces are proposed. Each lot proposed is less than 5,000 square feet, so it is exempt from off-street parking requirements, and no parking is required for townhouse use. No outdoor lighting or signage is proposed, and the demolition review, which is also under consideration from the planning board tonight, will have a DEC certificate of completion requested prior to the issuance of city grading permit. I think the HRC had requested some very minor changes to exterior design facade, but otherwise there's been minimal to no changes to the site plan / review. We have the recommended action broken out into 3 different slides, because there is a lot of applications and review and approval. So if you have other questions, or if you want to go through to that side. So they're broken down for each
It's right.
development plan review. Pretty much require quite a bit.
Right, you have to go through this process for each one as well. Yeah. Okay, so yeah,
Do we have to vote on each development plan review?
Yes,
Or
because
can
they're
we-
each,
we lump them all together.
Right, or could you take consensus?
We've done it before, we're motioned it all together, right?
Yeah, read the language of the motion.
That's fine. Okay, so should I see, in terms of, yeah, I'm trying to, yeah.
If you wanted, you could otherwise think referring to what's on the screen would be fair, we can see this recorded, so. The minutes 43, so.
Okay, so our first motion.
Or staff recommendation.
I think that would.
Recommended.
I mean, it's in the staff memos as well, which is publicly available. Anything like that, I think if you can make a reference instead of reading out each individual
Right.
tax law reference.
Okay, so our motion on the floor then is approval of the development plan review DPR 0202 with conditions. The conditions are prior to issuance of the building permit, tax lots listed in the materials for today's meeting shall be consolidated. And prior to the issuance of the building permit, final approval shall be obtained from the Department of Water and Water Supply. So do I have, kick off?
Whichever you prefer, we could do one, but
Let's do that. Let's do that. So let's, yeah. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
second.
Moved by Lottie and seconded by Lisa.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It passes unanimously. Okay. 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 The next motion on the floor is the approval of the following waiver for street amenities, section 375-4035B.
So moved.
Seconded.
Seconded.
Okay. Moved by Glenisha, seconded by Rachel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Okay, keep going. The approval, the next motion before us is the approval of the conditional use permit, CUP 0070. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Vanessa and seconded by Rachel. Good. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. And finally, the final motion before us is the approval of the development plan review, DPR 0203 with conditions. The conditions are prior to the issue of the building permit, the tax lots listed in the materials shall be consolidated. The second condition is prior to the issuance of the building permit, final approval shall be obtained from the Department of Water and Water Supply. Any motion? Or any, yes.
So moved. Second.
Okay, moved by Rachel and seconded by Denise. All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry. Anyone opposed? No, it passes unanimous.
One more.
Oh, one more.
Yeah.
It looks like two more.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Is that second one? Didn't we already do that one?
No, it's a demolition review and then the development.
Oh, okay. The next motion before us is the approval of demolition review, DR 0138. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Vanessa,
Seconded.
second by Rachel. And losing track. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, passes unanimously. And now the final motion for us is the approval of the development plan review, DPR 0204 with conditions. Conditions are prior to the issuance of a building permit, tax lot 65.81-2-19 shall be subdivided as shown on the proposed project plans prior to the issuance of the building permit. Final approval shall be obtained. And the second one is prior to the issuance of the building permit, final approval shall be obtained from the Department of Water and Water Supply. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second, moved by Vanessa and seconded by Shadi. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're done there, right? So the next item on our agenda is project 00592, development plan review for 1233 and 1235 Broadway. The applicant is Richard Vito, Center Square LLC, and the Albany County Land Bank. Under consideration of determination of significance.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Or is yours?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rich Vito. I'm the developer and the applicant here tonight. I also have an architect on the phone to answer any design related questions, but he was unable to make it in person. I just want to start by thanking the planning staff for all their help over the last few months, answering a lot of my questions. Really appreciate the help and are excited to be here and present the project that we think could be kind of a great playbook for bladed vacant parcels throughout the state. And with that being said, the project we're proposing here tonight is Center Square Apartments. And we are taking two tax exempt parcels that are currently owned by the land bank, combining the two lots and planning to build a 3-story structure that will consist of 12 units with 4 units on each floor. The project is at the corner of Broadway and Center Streets. And we'll have 6 one-bedroom units and 6 two-bedroom units. 1233 Broadway has actually been vacant dating back to at least 2007, which is as far back as Google images go. And the adjacent property was actually demolished in 2017 and was a tax foreclosed property that was taken down due to safety concerns from the public. The plan is to combine those parcels, as I mentioned, and add them back to the tax rolls and then create this 12-unit development. The zoning is MUNC, and as proposed, we are within all of the USDO zoning requirements. Our team, I just also want to note our team, these are the 2 current parcels, but we do think this project can be transformative for the neighborhood and will also help to further investment in additional properties and help for redevelopment of other vacant parcels. This is the existing conditions of the site. Obviously, it's 2 vacant parcels, so not a ton to see here, but the property does slope from the frontage on Broadway back to the rear of the site. The next slide here outlines the proposed site plan, which we will have 87% lot coverage of the site, which stays below the USDO requirement of 90% max lot coverage. And also here to note, we've outlined the trash and waste removal and storage area over in an alley it's on the south of the paper, but it's actually to the north of the property between the adjacent property and our property. This is the landscape plan. Since the site is fairly small, there's not a ton of landscaping that we have the ability to do, but we are proposing to do a landscape planner at the front along the Broadway frontage of the property. The next slide here outlines the elevation, and 33 Center Street, which is the proposed name of the development, sits within the warehouse district, and the design draws inspiration from the surrounding small businesses, including warehouses and residential buildings converted into offices and workspaces. The surrounding buildings feature a mix of commercial and do-it-yourself materials such as brick, metal panels, vinyl siding, stucco, and concrete. Our goal is to create a dual palette for the exterior of 33 Center Street by using brick, concrete blocks, or a similar type of material on the ground floor, and lighter materials such as metal, wood, or panels on the upper 2 floors. This approach aims to provide a contextual design that complements the neighborhood's warehouse aesthetic while offering an elevated and comfortable environment for future residents. This is just the side elevation for Center Street. We actually moved the entrance to the building off of Broadway onto Center due to the site's kind of lack of size. Yeah.
Okay. Due to the site size, we tried to be as efficient as possible, which we believe we actually did a very good job doing. The efficiency of the upper floors, which is basically the usable square footage, ends up being about 96% because we moved the entrance over to Center Street. You can see here the first floor. I'm sorry, this is the basement. The basement area, I just want to outline what we have here. This is the utilities coming into the building. So we have water and our sanitary connection here, and we actually connected all the utilities onto Center Street as per our initial direction at our technical review committee meeting, just so we don't disrupt Broadway or the bus stop out in front. So we think we are able to do that with the site plan as proposed. We also have some tent storage down here, as well as bicycle storage, which should allow for at least 1 bicycle per unit within the building. The upper 3 floors, we can take a look at each, but it's a fairly similar design. There's a central corridor that goes all the way up to the top and down to the basement, and then you have a mix of 2 one-bedrooms and 2 two-bedrooms on each floor. And the unit mix is 50% 1 beds and 50% 2 beds. Another thing to note, each of the units will have a washer and dryer, dishwasher, and energy efficient appliances, and the building is actually all electric as well. So here's floor number 1, floor number 2, pretty similar. You pick up some square footage on the upper floors because the entrance is not there. And then floor 3 is almost identical, except we're providing access to the roof via a ladder.
And then the final slide is just the additional information. So our anticipated length of construction is somewhere between 8 and 12 months. And in terms of neighborhood outreach, we've spoken to Ward 4 Council Member Kelly Kimbrough, and he's provided a letter of support, and he agrees. He thinks this is like a great use of blighted properties, and it's great to create additional housing that the city needs. On May 14th, we presented to the North Albany Neighborhood Association, and as of this date, we had a good conversation. They wanted to wait for our initial planning board presentation and the drawing submitted to potentially make a formal letter of support, but have not at this time. And not up there, the State Historic Preservation Office has determined that no historic properties or resources will be affected by the project. In terms of project funding sources, this will be a market rate project, so we are not pursuing any state or federal funding, but we are working with the IDA on a pilot, which we will be presenting to them next week. In addition to the pilot, we're pursuing mortgage recording tax exemption and sales tax exemption. And then just in summary, Center Square Apartments will be taking 2 tax exempt parcels, adding them back to the tax rolls and creating a vibrant 12-unit community for the city of Albany residents to enjoy. And we appreciate your time this evening and look forward to collaborating to bring this one to life.
Okay, thank you. Any question, board? Sure.
Will there be any ADA accessible apartments?
Yes. So the on the side view, the side elevation, there's actually a ramp going up to the building there. Yep. So all the units on the ground floor will be convertible to ADA, and 2 of the units will be ADA accessible. And to note, all of the units within the building will actually, the bathrooms are sized so that they can all be converted to ADA.
Oh,
Also,
is there an elevator?
there's not an elevator. Due to the site size, we're just providing the staircase, so it's a walk-up building. But with the ramp, all of the units on the ground floor will be ADA accessible.
Okay. Can you go back to the slide where it shows the basement? Yeah, so I'm trying to help me, I'm very visual. So, because you have crawl space and then you have storage.
Yes.
Is that because of the elevation?
No, the reason we're doing that actually is because 2 things we've done, not to go all over the place, but we offset from the adjacent building 5 feet. Because we obviously just want to do all that we can to avoid disrupting their foundation by any way of like excavation or anything. This is a crawl space area, and instead of doing like a traditional slab on grade foundation there, we're just putting a 4-foot, I believe it is right now, crawl space so that we can access utilities. The other area towards Center Street, which is as far away from the adjacent building as possible, that's where we'll actually have like an area where the ceiling heights will be about 7 feet. That's where our utilities will come in, so we'll have the utility room, have some additional tenant storage in case that tenants want to utilize it. All of our water heaters will be down here because we try to take them out of the units to give back some space to the tenants, and then the bike storage as well.
Okay. And you sort of led into my last question regarding, again, major construction right next to a building. What is your plan to not disturb or damage that neighboring building as you construct? On top of that, it's also a busy street, Broadway.
Yes.
So like.
Yes, right. To address the first question, we believe the offset of 5 feet should be sufficient, like us to not disrupt the building next door. We have the ability to complete test pits prior. Another thing to note, I was on site with a potential site work contractor today, is that the original demo of the old building, I was told by the demo contractor that they knocked in the top 2 feet of the foundation. So normally that would be a kind of a bad thing because you have to remove it, but in this case, the old existing foundation should actually be in place, which should potentially already be all the shoring that we need to make sure that the building next door is not disturbed.
Did you
I'm sorry. No, not yet. No, yes, we'd have to do like test pits and confirm that. Yes, yeah. So that's something that we can pursue. The second question, and it came up in the technical review committee meeting, we're trying to stay away from Broadway as much as possible. And right now, the adjacent sidewalk is like an asphalt sidewalk that was never really finished, like a concrete sidewalk, as you would see on Broadway. So the plan right now is to utilize that area as staging, and like that will be fenced off during construction until the completion of construction. And then once we are completed, we will be repaving it to match the aesthetic in the top left corner, so it'll be a new concrete sidewalk to match Broadway.
Any other questions?
How tall is it with respect to the other building?
The height of the building will be 34 feet 9 inches.
The one is that.
If you go to the left, the other building should be see the existing structure to the. So that is a 3-story building as well.
Are there windows on that side of it?
There will be windows, yes, yes.
It's
No.
because it was next to.
Yeah, there are no windows there as of right now. But there might be a few windows we add in just to get some extra light in there and for tenants, but the main windows will be in the front and the back.
Do you have to do any sidewalk adjustments for your ADA accessible route from the bus stop?
The ramp will be in the sidewalk area.
It's can't walk.
No. So the ramp will be in the sidewalk area, but that will be a part of the sidewalk improvement.
You'll tie it.
Yeah, so basically the Broadway kind of elevation will be, it'll be the same elevation getting to the ramp, and then that's what gets you up into the building.
I think it'd just be clearer if we saw it on the street.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. And the ramp should be outlined on the site plan, but.
But the tie-in, yeah. Right, so right now, it looks like it doesn't quite touch the sidewalk, right? Am I wrong?
No, it does, right, so that, where it says like the end, that's the top of the ramp and goes down.
Oh.
And then that's actually the ramp, right, yep, there, down there.
This is the side.
Mm-hmm.
27, okay. And then the landing is at the top for the ramp? Because that's what's confusing. You don't see the landing.
We can try and like draw that out.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got one question on the fact that's right next to Broadway. We've got to take in soundproofing into account in some way.
Yeah, I mean. Yes, the windows will have a certain level of soundproofing for sure. But it's just as any other building kind of would be constructed on Broadway, and there shouldn't be a ton of excess traffic. Obviously, you have buses and things, but there is obviously street noise associated with living in a city.
Right.
But yes, the windows will have like just your standard soundproofing.
Cool. Thank you. Let's see. Any public questions from the public?
Do you have a couple members of the public that hadn't been registered prior,
Thanks.
but they're here?
Thank you.
Christian?
Oh, okay. I don't know if you heard the whole spiel about 3 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try to get back. I'm very unprepared. I've never been here before. My name is Christian Landry. I live at 27 Center Street, right behind those trees on the top left. I just had a couple concerns. Well, I just wrote them down quick. I'll just go through them. Directly on my property line, that on the top left, there's what I would imagine is almost 100-year-old oak. Provides a lot of shade for that whole block because the sun comes this way. Helps with cooling and whatnot. I've been able to do yard work in the summer. We've talked in the past. It's gonna have to come out. I'm very bad at public talking, so bear with me. Sorry. Center Street's also busy. I was kind of wondering how the construction will go. I've talked to Rich in the past. Access to my yard could potentially be needed for things, and I don't know if that's a thing I work out with him and how this works out. That's why I'm here, just bringing up some concerns. There's a lot of talk of
building sustenance to the neighborhood from what he's said and what I've been told, but all I see is just kind of another apartment building for run. You know, there's no grocery stores near, you'd have to drive far to get groceries and whatnot. It's the warehouse district, so with the noise, like I know there's I work at Don's Moving, I've worked there for 10 years, so I'm very familiar with that area. I've lived there for 5 years. Trucks from National Grid, WP Mason, moving companies, they come that way. It's a low bridge. Truck GPS constantly, all day. Yeah, so and parking, I don't know if it's been addressed, it's gonna be addressed, 12 apartments, Center Street's already full with cars due to not only me, but there's other buildings there, people that live there park on Center Street. I have other vehicles that I don't leave there because of the parking. I have one at my mom's, I have one at work that I'm, grateful to be able to do that. If they were there, you just wouldn't be able to because it's just, so parking is a concern of mine. Also the windows where I don't know my right to an expectation of privacy being right there, but my house is 2 stories, upstairs, downstairs. If I have just windows looming over my yard, looming over the neighbor's yard, it's like, take the tree down, and you could look up geothermics on trees. It keeps yards cooler, it keeps houses cooler. But people peering into my yard and my house, I have a bathroom window on my side, just some concerns. And then if there's gonna be more traffic on Center Street, I don't know if it's ever been documented, that light is very finicky. People do run that light coming from the Stewarts because there's too close. One turns green while the other one's still red. People just go. It happens to me all the time getting ready for work. Nervous, but I won't go over time when it's late. That's all I got now, and thanks for hearing me out. Thank you.
You could, Julia. Center Robert? Yeah. Drop right at center.
Well, thank you for allowing me to let me see that. So my name is Julia Long. I'm a homeowner residing at 24 Center Street. I oppose the proposal to build a 3-story building. I've been just for more than a dozen years. I purchased this house from Albany County Land Bank. When I worked at the state senate, the land bank lobbied and begged the state legislature for funding so that they could help abandoned and zombie properties, keep them in the hands of the people who reside in the community. They stated they recognize the racial discrimination and segregation of redlining, and that Black, brown, and women people were historically locked out of property ownership, yet they have undermined me and my request to purchase the lots at 1233 and 1235 Broadway. See, after I purchased my home, I submitted an application to the land bank to purchase the lots, and I was denied, no reason given. Not only did I request to purchase the corner lot, my neighbor Liz Sullivan requested, she too was denied, and my neighbor Kristen, he has some inquiries about the property. So there's something going on here. The prerequisite for purchasing land from the land bank is that the purchaser be a resident. I am the vice president of the North Albany Neighborhood Association. The developer, Mr. Guido, spoke with the committee, which does not support his development. He admitted that he does not live in Albany, but is from New Jersey, and saw an opportunity to purchase these 2 lots and build a 3-story building, which is a violation of land bank's codes, and Attorney General is about that. So prior to purchasing my home, I lived in West Hill and Garfield Place. When I moved to North Albany, 24 Center Street, I did so because there's only 3 houses on my block. I am a single woman with custody of my grandson. My daughter resides with me with my granddaughter. 3 floors of tenants on the corner of my home creates an influx of approximately 40 to 50 new arrivals in my neighborhood, yet Mr. Guido makes no mention of security. In addition to this huge number of people entering my neighborhood, which creates a safety issue to my grandkids who cannot freely play outside my home, the sewer and water current infrastructure cannot support an additional 50 people. Currently, when there's a storm, the sewers back up in the street because the existing infrastructure district is old. My house was built in 1890, and I suspect the sewer system is nearly that old. This is a one-way, one-sided street parking and across the street from my property. Therefore, there's 1/3 of the street yields for parking and only one side of the street. There's been no mention of the creation of the expansion of sewer lines, parking spaces, only for profit. My day job, I provide legal assistance, tenants and housing in court. So I feel that Mr. Guido came to the meeting, with a conversation that's been taking place for 2 years. There's no consideration for the tenants, and the homeowners, the stakeholders in the community. So I am respectfully requesting that, this is requested.
I think something I probably should have mentioned is it always helps to follow up with a letter, so we have that on.
Great, thank you.
And that, I think,
That's
Is-
all on the top.
that's everyone, okay, very good. I will say I have one question on the tree, is that's on your property?
Yes,
But covered by the building or something?
The tree lot, the tree is directly on my lot. I'm sorry, it's directly on the tree. And splits the tree. It's not just on.
Yes. Okay, yeah, the site plan house is based on the survey, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see, shall we move on then to Sam?
Yeah.
Comments?
I just have a question.
Oh, sure.
So, in the neighborhood that I live in Center Square, we run into this quite often, where parking is an issue. And we are adding quite a load to community spots that are on the road. What are some ways, and you definitely have the benefit of having the bus out there.
Mhm.
You as a developer also have capacity to provide bus passes to your residents. Is that something you considered to mitigate people coming in 2 cars?
It is not something that I've considered, no, but it's not something that's necessarily out of the question. I think a few things that helped alleviate it, as you said, is just the proximity to almost every single bus line within this area. I mean, the bus stops and the lines all cover just about all of downtown Albany and really up north through Troy, Waterfleet and Waterford. That's one obvious potential solution. 2, we're in very close proximity to a CPHP school station as well around the block. That's the second thing. And we are providing the on-site bike storage as well. So trying to address the issue and also, I know there's always been a push of, more or less parking, within a city. So trying to kind of like meet the needs of all the tenants.
Yeah.
Right.
Issue.
Right, CDK does have a kind of a package deal that businesses like landlords can take advantage of.
Okay.
It's
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely look into that.
But I also, there is a concern because on the same thing of the lack of parking, because North Albany is a food desert and has been for some time. The closest grocery store was Manans, and that's now closed. So now the closest grocery store is in Loudonville. Or across the bridge in Greenbush, which requires a car, but neither one, the one in Loudonville is on a bus route, but not an easy bus route from here. And East Greenbush would require a car. So you're not necessarily downtown Albany.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that if there's a couple that comes in and they have the opportunity to downsize from 2 cars for one, there could be a fire by having less.
Right, but I think my point is that in this location, the tenants would more than likely have a car. Just because of location.
You never know.
Oh no, my mother lives in this area. So it's very, just to go grocery shopping, unless you're doing service, which a lot of people are doing now. But I would think that the parking issue would be an issue. If there's only 3 houses on that street and they're having parking issues for 3 houses and their house is not,
There is parking on Broadway as well. There's parking on North Second Street. There's parking on some of the other streets that go to the west also. I think one thing that I'm looking into is it almost looks like the auto repair shop might park cars in that, on Center Street. And they have not been moved in quite some time. I don't know if, but they do have license plates on them, so I don't know if he's just using it as overflow parking. So there's like an option there to potentially alleviate some of the parking concerns.
Anything else?
Okay, good. So anyway, we'll get the staff report.
So just a reminder, the project.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Right.
The project is, this is the first appearance of the project. It has been, circulated with their city departments. Engineering, water, general services, Division of Forestry, and they will all have a comment letter that will be provided to the applicant, who will then work towards, addressing those comments and responses to those comments. The two lots, as the applicant had stated, have been unimproved at least since 1998. There's some detail as to when the county gained ownership of the lots. The project is proposing 12 dwelling units. Typically in a multi-unit dwelling, there is a requirement of 10% of site area for indoor, outdoor, active, passive recreation space, but it being less than 50 dwelling units, that is here per the code. They do provide laundry services in each unit. The impervious lot coverage the applicant had mentioned is 87%. I do need to clarify that a little as to what's covered and where it's not. The maximum is 90%. It is a lot that's almost completely built upon, so we'd have to find some clarification as to where the impervious surfaces or pervious surfaces are. The affordable housing requirements apply to new residential multi-unit development containing 20 or more dwelling units, so that doesn't apply here either. The 4 feet portion of the ramp that's being proposed is located on the primary entrance on Center Street. It does encroach onto the city right of way. It will require agreement with the city, which must be obtained from Corporation Council. Additional measurements as to the angle of the proposed ramp should be provided. A site plan needs some updating on the dimensions of the sidewalk on the Broadway frontage. There is dimensions on the Center Street frontage. The project will require the provision of 3 street amenities along Center Street right of way. These amenities could include benches, bicycle racks, planters, piece of public art. DGS will also have some say-so, or will review that proposal. The 2 parcels will be consolidated. That's the requirement of the code. The property includes approximately 3,900 square feet of gross floor area. Off-street vehicle parking is not required where the lot contains less than 5,000 square feet. So per the USDO, they're not required to provide off-street parking for the project. The Center Street frontage is 84 feet. 2 street trees would be required on that frontage. On Broadway, it's 46 feet. 1 street tree would be required for the USDO.
These are going to be difficult because of the bus.
There is. So where there are these requirements, the applicant can choose to seek a waiver as well.
Some alternative landscape.
Some alternative, correct. Alternative location of amenities or trees, waivers if there are other avenues. Per the design standards, building design standards, the proposed primary pedestrian entrance, which is also the primary public entrance, needs to be a bit more emphasized. There are very minimal design elements that are utilized on the Broadway frontage, and there's no design elements, so to speak, utilized on Center Street frontage. The transparency the facade transparency needs to be addressed as well. The requirement for all 3 floors is 30%. Cursory calculation says it's about 14 to 17%. But it is right on Broadway. We are considering noise. So that would have to be addressed. And just to provide this information, it is a unlisted action per seeker, and the planning board may proceed with an independent determination. The Albany County Planning Board referral is not required in this case because the property is not located within 500 feet of a state or county road, facility, park, property, municipal boundary. That's it. That's all.
Thank you. Let's see, we have a motion for an action from this grant.
Seeker.
Seeker. Just
And a referral for the DPR.
Okay. Oh, right. Okay, should we dive in? Anything else, council? Okay, good. So first action before us is the chief. We have to vote on that, right? The deferral. Sorry. Planning officer recommends deferral of DPR 0224 pending revisions and information responding to called items in the above report, pending completion of the interdepartmental review. So a motion?
Second.
Okay, moved by Rachel and seconded by Vanessa. Let's see now, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes unanimously. The second action is a negative declaration for SECRA, determination of significance.
So moved.
Okay. No, sorry, I was just trying to decipher what I just said. Okay. Moved by Vanessa and seconded by Rachel. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes unanimously. And I think that's everything, right?
Oh, yes, for this part.
For this.
Yeah.
And our final item for the evening, 590, a demolition review for 17 Holland Avenue. And is William Hobart, the CDP Holland LLC. Educations of the city. I know. You appreciate it?
Missing the Olympics.
Oh, sir.
Bill Hoblock with Ridgefield Hospital Development Group, here just for the demolition review of 17 Holland Avenue. And we're doing it for the betterment of the gallery on Holland residential project, which is right next door. I think Martin and Glennis were probably the only board members who were around when that was approved. So I'm happy to say it is built. The gallery in Holland I'm talking about next door. It's a 60-unit building. It was completed earlier this year. And it is already half occupied and having only been open about 4 months and leasing very, very well. So you see, we're right on the corner of Holland and Delaware. Okay, right across from the hotel that recently sold. Okay, we're gonna go to the next one, Jessamine. So really, just really quick, the gallery on Holland, first class project. We've invested over $13 million in it, and that property. We're proud of it. This is what we do. We build apartments, we run apartments. We're probably, if not the most active multifamily developer in the area, one of the top. If you haven't seen it, please go see it. Would love to show it to you. If you want to take a tour of it, I always offer planning board members, please come see what you approved and what you worked on, all this. So certainly Jasmine has my contact information. I'll give you a business card. Would love to take you to the property because we're really, really proud of what we built there, and it's a great asset to that neighborhood. So it's demoing 17, and go to the next one if you would, please. So you see where it is. Can you zoom in on that? So it's Holland Avenue down on the left. Okay, so that is
That's the building, that's the Gallery on Holland. And if you look down to the right of it, that little triangle piece is 17 Holland. It's a tiny little piece. And what we're demoing and we're proposing to demo the building, the 2-unit, for really 2 reasons. Why it betters the overall project, because that's really what this becomes part of the project, because of the Gallery on Holland. Number one, it gives us a few more parking spaces. We're underparked. We have 59 spots for 60 units. So we are underparked, and we knew that going in, but we could basically do all we could do when we got approved back then. And the other thing that it does, that's number one, it helps with the parking for residents, because you can see it's all parking behind the building, so I had a few more spots. The other thing, if you can go to the next slide, 17 Holland is really tight to the building. So if you look at the photo on the left, okay, that's 17 Holland is that blue and brick building. Next to it is the Gallery on Holland, and you see how tight it is. And there's also an elevation difference where the 17 Holland is actually higher than the Gallery on Holland building, so it seems even higher. So all those units on that side of the building, you just stare out at a building, and a not a really attractive building, being 17 Holland. So when that comes down, it completely opens that side of the building up. So it's really gonna, it lets light in, because all those people have either a balcony or a patio on that whole side, and it just transforms all those units. And makes just for a better living environment for everyone on that side of the building. So that's the only reason I'm here tonight. I'm not here for the methadone clinic, I promise.
Look like you're putting a new fence along the property.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like we did in the bathroom side.
So what do you plan on doing with that extra space? Just making it green space?
Yeah, so we'll have a couple parking spots. We have 4 parking spots and then some green space.
Okay.
And are the spots assigned?
Yeah.
Okay.
They are.
We'll know that.
You have to, otherwise it's a free for all.
Yeah.
And all you do is deal with residents,
Complaining.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see now. So any other questions from the board?
The electric charging.
We already have those.
In the back.
Yeah, we do, yeah.
How's the traffic been in that area now? That's usually a hot spot corridor.
Oh, you mean car traffic? It's not bad. School kids, when it's in traffic, because they go.
No, not
In construction, we're fighting out the school kids.
Yeah, not the hacking stuff.
Yeah.
That just is what it is.
Yeah, totally.
No, because like Holland Avenue is a really, and it's a weird corridor, so.
It is, and you have those lights are so close to each other, packet light, right there, the Delaware light.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's urban living and you get used to it. People understand it, they deal with it.
Okay. Yeah, we have seen no comments from the public, correct? And so comments from the, we don't know. It might be online. Report from staff.
So the property in question is currently a dwelling 2-unit detached structure with a driveway and a garage. The structure, the report provides a little bit history on the structure. It was constructed in 1960, acquired, I believe, in November of 2022. And it's the prior owner maintained it as a 2-unit rental facility structure where dwelling residential occupancy permits were sought. I believe they sought a refund in 22 with the ones citing that the building was sold and would likely be demolished by the new owner. The property has not been registered as vacant. The applicant initially had proposed to demolish the structure to provide additional landscape area for the 25 Holland as stated. It is updated, the proposal is now updated to include 4 additional parking spaces that would be accessory to 25 Holland Avenue. This is an unlisted action and does require determination of significance. The application does also require referral to the Albany County Planning Board, per the 239 M&N law. The Applicant's proposal to demolish the structure on 17 Holland and the use of the property to provide an accessory use to the dwelling multi-unit located on 25 Holland would require the applicant to complete a lot modification application for 17 and 25, and it would also require an amendment to the previously approved site plan for 25 Holland, the larger site. The updated redevelopment plan proposing the use of 17 Holland as a surface parking lot, including 4 spaces, would require further review for code compliance with the USDO. The comprehensive plan in the demo application case calls for stabilization and reuse of existing structures where possible. The applicant has not proposed a redevelopment of the site that includes a new structure to replace the existing structure. Alternatives that preserve the existing structure, such as selling the building or donating it or adaptive reuse, have not been provided. The applicant has provided no information as to the existing condition of the property, interior or exterior, so we would be looking for that. The hardship faced by the owner applicant is self-created. The owner applicant has not obtained any permits to conduct a repair work to maintain the structure or utilize it as a 2-dwelling unit since its purchase in September or November of 22. And no attempts per our records to market the property has been claimed in the application. Great.
Thank you. And Brad, I think that's, we don't have any actions.
No.
So, okay,
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
take care. Okay, motion to adjourn?
Someone.
Yes, I assume everyone, I think it has to be answered.
Into the rain. Yeah, you don't hear this.
Oh my God.
Thanks for your time tonight, appreciate it.
Thank you.